enough of Keanu. Yes, it's true. Whenever we see you in another movie, get to wishing that you were in them all. Our hearts cry out, Keanu, haven't aged a day in 30 years. Now we're looking back on your career. Can't get enough of Keanu.
I swear to God, Sean Evans is going to have some unheard of hot peppers related disease when he's older that just from ingesting
He's
too
going
much
to
stuff.
die at the age of 45.
He's going to have burned through all of his stomach lining. His stomach is literally going to dissolve.
He's gonna be like, what's the guy, Man versus Food? What was that guy?
Oh,
Adam.
Adam. I almost said Adam Lance Garcia. Adam.
shout out to Adam Lance
It's Adam
Garcia.
Lanza.
I just know.
Yeah, what was his name? He's on an episode of Hot Ones.
Right, but he got all he
had to stop because he was
swore
having
off
health
his-
issues, right?
Yeah, his show basically because he was like, I'm getting fat and unhealthy, and then he dropped a ton of weight.
I'm surprised the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives guy, Bobby Flay?
Adam Richman.
No, Adam Richman.
Adam Richman.
Oh, Adam Richman is the Man versus Food guy.
The original one.
Who's
Yeah.
the Diners, Drive, the Frosted Tips? The Diners,
Guy Fieri?
Not Guy Fieri.
You know it is.
It's Guy Fieri?
Yes.
Fuck.
Come on, Jake.
I can't keep him
You
straight.
know what he looks like?
The fucking mayor of Flavortown?
Yeah, the mayor of
Who
Flavortown.
else would Guy Fieri be?
I don't know.
Season your pussy before he eats
keep
it?
my celebrity chef straight.
The weird thing about him is that
saw
it's actually
Bobby Flay.
pronounced Guy Fieri, but it's spelled Fieri.
Yeah,
Yeti?
and he's a Yeti.
He does have frosted
Has anyone
hair. It
made
looks like it's covered in
that
snow.
like that weird Photoshop?
No, I don't know.
Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
If anyone
the abominable
wants to just
Guy Fieri.
murder some time, they'll never get back doing something.
We've been recording for a few minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to be
Oh.
clear.
So we've got a spooky episode for you today,
Yeah.
folks.
Because it's October. Will this episode come out in October?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna come out. It's gonna be our Halloween episode.
This is
How
our
great is
spooky.
that?
This is so perfect. It's our spooky Halloween episode.
Okay, so I want to make something clear. I messed up on the spreadsheet when I scheduled this whole thing because I thought there was a movie in between My Own Private Idaho and Dracula.
Okay.
And there technically is, but it may be the most obscure Keanu Reeves film.
What are we talking about here?
It's a film called Providence. Jake,
Rhode
since you are the
Island?
other one who does research here,
Providence?
are you aware of the Keanu film Providence?
Yeah, I had heard about this, and it's not properly listed. Really,
Is it that short
on-
film? That like weird. What is it?
What is it? Tell me.
You know what? I'm not gonna go through this whole rigmarole.
I'll look it up here.
Tell
Hold
me
on.
what it is.
It's,
wow.
1 second.
I mean, it's a
soft typing of keys.
It's
the
a
sound of-
1991 film. It's on IMDb. It's not listed on Keanu's filmography on Wikipedia, but yeah, okay. The synopsis, it's a drama. It says a talented but disenchanted high school student seeking more advanced instruction sneaks inside the ivy-covered gates of nearby Brown University.
Oh, it is in Rhode Island. Nice.
Masquerading as a college student, he is soon matching morals with a young co-ed and wits with his literature professor. His passion for learning affects and amazes all those around him, but soon his house of cards begins to crumble, and the
Ruh-roh.
penalties could do more than jeopardize just his academic future. But here's what I found interesting about the movie, and again, I could not find a lot of info about it. On what seems like the movie poster, it says in the credits at the bottom, the USC School of Cinema and Television presents. So I'm wondering, was this like some sort of student film that somehow landed Keanu?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, because it's not listed on his Wikipedia filmography.
Jake, I just said that.
Yeah, no, I'm clarifying. I know, but is it in his IMDb? Can we look?
Yes, it is. I'm looking at this all on IMDb.
Okay.
And the rest of the cast, people like
You're really
Dee Dee
fucking up.
I
Pfeiffer
know.
and J.D. Cullum, I don't know who they are. But Keanu is the only person who's like a name in it. And this movie, it's directed by David McKay, who seems to make things I've never heard of. It's his first film.
Yeah, and this movie seems to not be rated too well.
Yeah, it's
I mean, the plot sounds stupid as hell. Who wants to see the kid loves learning?
Yeah.
Fuck. Get out of here. But then they're like, wait, you're not matriculated.
but maybe I don't know. It just I'm imagining a movie where Keanu like wears a bunch of nice sweaters and
That's probably true.
Do you want to know?
Probably why.
Do you want to know a very strange Keanu appearance that used to be on his Wikipedia page, but then also got taken down?
Yeah, tell me.
In 1993, I believe, and this is something that I also thought we were going to have to cover, he makes a very, very small cameo appearance in John Singleton's follow-up movie to Boys in the Hood, which I think is called Poetic Justice.
Wait, really?
Really?
Yeah, he plays like a homeless man or something. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, we'll get to watch this strange follow-up film from John Singleton. I was kind of excited because I haven't really seen much by him.
R.I.P. John Singleton.
Yeah. And then, like, somewhere while we were just getting started with these episodes, I remember just going back on the filmography and it just wasn't there. But then I Googled it. I was like, wait, was he or was he not in this movie? I don't understand. And there's certain articles that are like, yes, Keanu Reeves makes... It's not noteworthy enough, I think, to devote a full episode to, but it might be worth including in like a bonus thing that we're doing. He does show up in this movie and is uncredited.
See, this is why internet curation is so important.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody, stay on top of dumb shit like this, please, because we need to get our facts straight.
Yeah,
Yes.
and to be very clear, if anyone can find a place that we can watch Providence,
Yeah.
I found like a low res 1 minute clip on YouTube from like a Russian Keanu Reeves fan channel.
Hell yeah.
But I
Keanu Reeves.
couldn't find it anywhere else.
He's cool, dude.
This movie seems to like genuinely not exist.
Yeah.
Hey, shouts out to Russia, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay? We should be brothers in arms.
Yeah, this should be like pre-World War II. We should go back to the old days when we
Yeah.
were buddies.
Two big-ass empires hanging out.
Huge empires across the oceans.
Yeah.
Looking at one another.
Jake, talk into your mic better.
Sorry.
Do a better job in general.
Jake, okay.
Should I lift this? Is this better?
So yes,
Okay.
so to give listeners a peek behind the curtain,
Yeah.
we are recording today in Matt and my apartment as
Yeah.
opposed to our usual recording place, Jake's apartment. You know why we don't record in Matt and my apartment? Because we don't have a table that is like the
That you can
right
sit at.
height to sit around and
Yeah.
put mic stands on. So right now, Matt's on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I am sitting on the couch with my mic stand balanced precariously on my knee, and Jake is also sitting on the couch
Hunched over
the coffee table, but also whenever he tries to like talk to Matt or me, he basically has to like turn away from the mic.
Yeah, so I'm just not going to make eye contact with you.
There's
I'm going to
a-
look at your radiator while I have a conversation with you both.
To set the scene for Pat and I's apartment, it's completely empty. It's filthy. We're squatting here. Pat uses an extension cord to steal power from a neighboring building in order to just use the only thing that we own of value in the place, his computer and editing software.
It's true.
And we just have one...
It's an iMac plugged in, and it's just on the floor.
And we're all sitting around an egg crate, or a milk crate rather, and there's just one solitary candle flickering.
Yeah, this place is fucked up.
It's fucked up.
Also, no windows.
No windows, featureless. Clearly something dubious happened here, this room that we're in.
By the way, and if you watch the videos and are like, what are you talking about? I've seen that apartment so many times.
Green screen.
Green screen CGI, baby.
Yeah,
The
it's
movie
a musty,
magic, baby.
windowless room, and it smells like potted soil and dried blood, and I don't know why.
And you know why? You know why?
And trash, don't forget.
Because we want to be on theme for Dracula. That's right. Welcome to Can't Get Enough of
right.
Keanu, the internet's premier Keanu Reeves podcast, in which we explore the filmography of that great, ageless, enigmatic Canadian actor movie by movie. I'm Patrick Willems.
I'm Jake Torpy.
I'm Matthew Torby.
And Jake seems to have a soundboard.
Play something else.
I have a spooky Halloween soundboard
yeah.
for today.
Ooh.
Here we go.
Guys.
Jake, I think you really like upgraded this whole podcast.
Hell yes, dude. This is like Zoo Crew radio now.
No. The thing is, it's not even that good. If it were that good, then this would automatically go into like feed into the mix.
No, yeah, but it's like
but instead, Jake's just like playing it, and just like the mic is just picking it up in the background.
it's like how when you didn't know how to put sound music in videos, so you
Yeah.
play a boombox during the shoot.
yeah. Wait, was that?
What
was
is
just-
that even?
Was that, like,
What was that?
diarrhea?
That sounded like me
It was
moments
kill
earlier.
you. It said kill you.
Jake, play it
Oh.
into mine. Just play something cool.
All right, let's do Mockingbird.
Baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird
I think this is a bad podcast.
is gonna buy you a diamond ring.
Wow.
Is that a reference to Evil Dead 2?
I don't know.
Who knows? But anyway, chills went
I
down
will
my
be using
spine.
this liberally.
Chills
For
went
a
down my spine.
spooktacular episode.
Guys, turn off all the lights. Light some candles.
So
Yeah.
guys, Halloween is like now this episode is going to drop what on the 29th?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
close. Pretty close to our spookiest
How do you feel
day.
about Halloween? Presumably, the weekend before Halloween is when a lot of Halloween parties happen. What are your plans for Halloween that have probably already happened after since this episode's been released?
I don't really do much for Halloween anymore.
I'm just
You're so fucking lame.
Yeah, you suck.
You're no fun.
Yeah.
That's what a ghost says to you.
That's
do you
you're
mean?
gonna say like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna skip Christmas this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
You suck, and that's a Dracula's telling you that, and he does. That's what's
You
ironic
suck.
about it.
So
You
Jake-
suck more than me, and when it comes to blood, but
Go on, Dracula. What else you got?
and then then a mummy's like, well, that's a rap on Jake. Get it?
oh,
Oh, good one. Good one.
Yeah.
What
So-
other creature of the Black
So
Lagoon?
Jake, you have no Halloween plans? Do you have are you gonna have a costume?
No, I never.
Haven't you been invited to any Halloween parties?
Yeah, but I just don't dress up for them. I don't know.
What?
I'm not. Yeah.
What?
I don't like it. It's like
wait, so you go to these parties where everyone's in costume and you are just Jake.
Well,
most of the time, yeah.
false premise number one: he doesn't go to the parties.
false premise number one. I'm not invited to anything.
Jake was
Yeah.
lying.
We are Jake's only friends.
I stay at home.
and his wife.
Yeah, my wife loves
I'm
me.
planning on eating some candy until one of them has the razor blade in it that they always threaten is like a thing.
Wait, 1 second, Matt, slow down because I know as much as you are a big old weirdo, at least you recognize Halloween.
Yes.
So Jake, you don't attend these parties that you were invited to.
Well, I just don't like having to dress up and like get into a costume. It's annoying.
Are you
I have to-
aware that it's fun?
yeah,
Have you ever considered that like actually like committing to the thing is fun?
I
And
know,
then
like you
have
get
a
what
good
you
time?
give.
I mean,
And
I
you
spent-
put in the effort, and then you get back.
you
from
create your own reality.
I spent years through like a lot of like high school and college and stuff like that. I would not do anything for Halloween usually. My family has had this big Halloween party that I am going home for next weekend. That's been happening since longer than I've been alive, and it's always the Saturday before Halloween. And for a long time, for many years, I would just like not really do a costume or just be lazy about it. And then the year I started committing to it, I realized, oh, this is so much more fun. Oh, I'm gonna do this every year. I will always like make a costume, and it's better when you do.
I
But
know.
just
I
think about.
am
Just listen to
lazy.
think about who your coolest friend is. It's Pat.
Okay.
That's the coolest.
Pat,
Pat's
what were
the
you
coolest
for
guy we
Halloween
know.
last year?
Last year, I was Detective David Mills from the movie Seven. That's
Okay.
Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah,
I
in a
was
box.
carrying a box with some strands of hair hanging out of the box,
And also presumably his dead fetal child.
that was never, what?
That's not in
That's
seven.
Not
That's
confirmed.
just
She was pregnant.
I thought the baby was in there
in the
too.
box too.
Yeah.
No, it's
Oh.
just her head.
Yeah, just her head in the box.
How much
that-
room do you think
well-
is in a box?
Well, that's
Also,
movie
she
sucks
just,
now.
just yeah. So yeah, I was specifically I was him from the end of the movie Seven, and so
Right.
I had like the bulletproof vest and,
And, like, the Band-Aid.
The bandage. I had to buy
Yeah.
like a butterfly bandage for the head and stuff like that. I did. I the attention to detail is always really fun. What's also fun about doing this costume for my family's Halloween party is that most of the guests at that party it's one of the most pop culture ignorant groups of people that is ever assembled anywhere on Earth.
Yeah, that's
that
funny.
just like that party each year, and so almost no one ever gets it.
Yeah.
And but it's fun.
They're like,
Yeah.
I'm Anderson Cooper. That's like their Halloween costume.
No,
They're
no.
like, I'm.
Or that's the only person they'd be able to guess because they just watch CNN. They don't watch any movies or anything.
Yeah.
It's never anything that involves
Yeah.
popular culture at all.
Who? So So what is a costume? Like,
I mean,
I'm a ghost. That's something?
People will do costumes, but they're
I'm a
usually
Frankenstein.
there'll be like a play on words or like some
One of my friends was Gamergate during that time because all he did was like cut out some cardboard to make a fake gate, like a literal gate that he hung around his neck, and then he like wore an N64 controller. And that's how lazy he fucking was.
Oh my god! You want to hear? You want to hear a lazy
Did he go
person?
in character and just complain about female games journalists all night?
Yeah, and just like how like SJWs were like infesting gaming, so he had to play as a girl who could wield a sword even though she didn't have the upper body strength to do such a thing.
Oh my god!
What a good time that was.
JK.
I had a friend who went. This annoyed me because it was something I could have easily had done as somebody else that basically didn't go in costume. He wore he had a piece of white paper taped to his chest and it said nudist on strike. And I was like, fuck you.
But it's
It's clever.
You're just mad that you didn't
Yeah, because
So-
he basically
so
got to
he
get
had the-
away with not
put the
dressing
brain
up.
power in.
So
just
he
did
had
something-
the laziest costume ever, and you're like, man, I could have been that lazy.
You want to know something even worse? The year before that, he literally did the same thing. He taped a piece of paper to his chest, and that piece of paper said, "To women from God." And it was like, "Oh, you're a gift to women." I don't know.
Oh, that's now
was
I'm mad.
Wait,
that
wait, come on, call him out. Who is it?
yeah.
No, I'm not calling
Say
him
his
out.
name and address.
I'm not gonna say
And
his
let's
name.
dox him.
A list of his fears.
I don't know. I don't know who this is, but this guy should be ashamed of
It
himself.
was irritating, and he should be ashamed of himself.
But the lesson here is
For what
that
it's worth, I'd hate him now.
yeah. But seriously, Jake, Jake, have you been invited to any Halloween parties?
I don't know why
no.
we're putting the squeeze on Jake so hard about this.
Yeah, I
It's
just-
Halloween. Okay, in my opinion, Halloween is the second best holiday after
So
Christmas.
this is about you, Pat.
Yeah. And well, look, Halloween is great, and there's so much stuff to take part in. So many fun rituals, and like Halloween is a very it's the kind of holiday where you can get so much out of it if you want to. And I'm not even like a crazy Halloween person. I'm just like I'm a fairly casual Halloween person. I'm
Yeah.
just disappointed that Jake, who
No, I disagree.
Jake
I
who-
disagree
who-
about you being
who loves horror
disappointed.
movies
Yeah.
and spooky stuff.
love spooky
is always
stuff.
talking about ooks and spooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, my ooks and spooks live in my brain, dude.
And Jake, who as we
I don't need to-
we know is so
Don Garb.
is cool with wearing wacky costumes in public places.
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed that Jake just skips it.
Here's the thing.
My whole brain is a freaking
Yeah, it's a
scary
nightmare.
It's
Wait, I
always
gotta-
Halloween in here.
My whole wait. Let's
see, Matt.
put the mic up to my brain. Let's hear what's inside.
Oh, shit!
shit, dude! Whoa! Let's hear some.
that actually sounds kind of like Gary Oldman's Dracula laugh.
Or yes, are you trying to pivot?
No.
Okay.
Can I say my piece on Halloween?
Yeah.
We live in
Make
New
me
York
angry.
City. So when we're celebrating Halloween as, not like young adults, right? I'm 29.
We're men.
We're men, right? So you can't go trick-or-treating. And even if you wanted to go trick-or-treating in New York City, it's weird.
Well, you can buy yourself candy at this.
So you can buy yourself candy, right? But like the biggest routine in Halloween when you're growing up is to, we all lived in Saratoga Springs when we were younger. And so you can walk around and visit people's houses and you go trick-or-treating. It's classic. It's classic Halloween activity.
That is one of many Halloween activities.
Yes. Okay. So that's out the window though when you live in New York City. So your other
But it
two,
doesn't matter because you're too old to trick or treat anyway.
I know, but here's what I'm saying is so your options as an adult trying to enjoy Halloween is to go to the Halloween parade in downtown Manhattan,
Right.
which sucks. Every parade is overcrowded and like a nightmare to
Yeah.
navigate through.
Yeah, don't do it.
So that
I wouldn't
blows.
do it.
And then basically what happens then is as an adult, you get invited to other people's apartments for Halloween parties, quote unquote, where everybody has to now suddenly show up in a big elaborate costume. But really all it means is you have to put on a big elaborate costume and then get on the subway in your costume and you're uncomfortable and you have to go to somebody else's apartment and be hot in their apartment in outfits. And then you just drink like what you would normally do without a outfit on.
And you slowly take your costume off,
Yeah,
probably.
and your costume slowly comes off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go home and then you're like, well, I'm glad I guess I spent hours and $60 buying this.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound fun to me.
It just sounds like you have a bad attitude about it.
Do you enjoy parties in the first place?
I like parties. I like drinking. I like alcohol.
and
I
then
like
and then
hanging
a
out.
themed party where you get to see everyone's wearing something wacky and
You're not a fan of a themed party?
Jake, I've got to say this is a big episode because I'm discovering that maybe you are just no fun at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Wow.
Ooh, hold on.
Yeah.
That was Demon, too.
A good sound effect. Thanks.
Exactly. Well,
See Demons. That's a good movie.
Yeah.
okay, now that we've all been sufficiently let down by Jake.
Yeah.
Wait, Matt, you got any Halloween plans?
I don't like this. I feel I'm next.
Yeah, our feet are
really
getting put to the
This is
fire
such
right
a
now.
normal question. Hey, one of the big holidays of the year is coming up. It's fun. What are you gonna do? I mean, like I haven't nailed down all my costume plans and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but I might have
Yeah.
multiple costumes for multiple parties.
I mean, I'll do what I normally do, which is buy candy in bulk from CVS.
No, you
eat
do
it-
that the day after Halloween. That's what the
Shut
move.
up. I'll tell you what I'm doing.
Yes. Okay. Go on.
I buy candy from CVS, mostly Reese's.
Hell yeah.
Eat them until my teeth ache around the root line, and I throw up once at least. Go outside. Scare children from the bushes. I'm drunk, usually. Then I find small animals and pets from around the neighborhood. I throw a bag over them. I kill them. I get their bones out of their bodies, and I make a bone shrine so that the bone collector guy can come say hi to me and we can hang out for the rest of the night until the sun comes up and we talk about our feelings. And that is how I spend Halloween.
Well,
Very cool.
Thank you for sharing. Let's change
That's
the subject
fucked up.
completely now that we are 20-something minutes into this episode.
Good.
Just so you know, guys, I am going to follow up, whenever we record in early November to be like, what are you going to do for Halloween?
I'll do something fun. I'll figure it out.
Something to say, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a
Again,
good time.
Jake, try having fun because you seem to have not tried in the past.
Yeah, the past 5 years, I really haven't tried to do anything fun for Halloween.
Yeah.
I think the last time I dressed up, I did a joint. As you do when you're in a couple, you always have to do a
Couple's
outfit. Yeah,
costume.
couple's costume. And I think Rachel got some hilarious onesie from a family member a couple Christmases earlier or something that was just this big giant fuzzy brown thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so she put it on. She was like, this basically looks like bear skin. So she was like, I could be a bear for Halloween. And she did some stuff with her face. And then I was
Wait,
okay,
what'd she do with her face?
I don't know,
Make herself have nose.
more bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Painted the tip of her nose black. And then maybe put I don't know.
Ears.
Yeah. She got the bear ears and stuff.
Nice.
And she has really intense curly hair and stuff. So I think she did something poofy with it to make her head more berry. And then
Were you Goldilocks?
No, I wasn't Goldilocks. I was a hiker that had been mauled by a bear because I happened to have gym shorts and hiking shoes.
That's good, dude.
So
I
I
like
did that,
that.
and then I drew some red claw marks across my neck and face and stuff.
See, there you go.
That was good.
That sounds
it required
fun,
very little
and
effort.
it also sounds like something that wasn't miserable to wear on the subway.
No, yeah, it was actually not too bad.
Oops, turns out it's fun. Whoa, what a revelation.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
did have a good time.
I've blown up Jake's spot
Yeah.
enough here.
Jake's visibly sad.
As he should be. Anyway, this is an
just think
episode
I'm
about the
boring.
1992 Francis Ford Coppola film Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And I'm pretty
Dracula.
stoked to talk about it, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? Okay, this is a big movie in terms of it was a hit when it came out.
Yeah.
It was significant in the landscape or in the history of vampire cinema, in terms of Francis Ford Coppola's career, and also in terms of our dude Keanu's career, because this is his most infamous performance.
Yeah.
This is the performance that has landed him on the on lists like the 25 biggest miscastings in Hollywood history.
Yeah.
That would be true.
This is the one that, again, on theme, haunts him maybe to this day.
Yeah.
We
To
had
this
get
day,
there.
do you think so? Do you think he's still sort of hurt by this?
I mean, I don't know how he feels about it. I mean, like, he's said that, you know, he isn't proud of his work in this movie.
Okay.
But,
so he's self-aware about it. He's
he-
not like, I don't
he
know
is.
what people's problem
Well,
is.
here, there's a couple things. Like, once again,
He's doing an
completely-
accent.
completely overblown. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
this shit's not like horrendous. Where
Again,
you're like,
it does not
Christ.
ruin the movie.
It doesn't
like some
ruin the
people.
movie.
Unlike Tune In Tomorrow,
Yeah.
what I think is the other like weak performance he's given, where he's attempting an accent he can't really do.
Yeah.
In that movie, he's the lead, and I think there he is much more of a drawback to the film overall than Dracula, where there's so much else going on.
And so many other character actors, and that get the screen time parody is pretty good here. Like Richard E. Grant is on screen parody. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, not,
You
not
can
the
say no. You can say parody. That's how you say it, though.
Yeah,
Pronounce it.
parody.
I know. I just want to make clear that
Right, yeah.
you know,
You're right. I'm using a word that sounds like parody, like the satire.
again,
Yeah.
English dumb language.
Stupid language. But everybody gets equal screen time, I'll say. Like Richard E. Grant is up on screen just as much as Keanu Reeves is, maybe a little less. And you know, Winona Ryder. So they all share that screen. So there's just the burden of Keanu's poor English accent doesn't break the film, I would say. There were some critics that really felt like him being cast in this role ruined the movie, which is such an overreaction. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say, you know, to be honest, I don't think everybody in this movie, it's not just Keanu, I think, that struggles with an English accent that they do or don't have. I would say I love Winona Ryder, and we can talk about Winona Ryder more later, but I don't think her accent is flawless. She kind of falters here and there in scenes. And I'm going to say, I think this is my hot take, the movie. I don't think Gary Oldman does anything remotely consistent either. His performance is so great, though, that it doesn't matter.
Oh wow! Now see, I have
The way Gary Oldman
Oldman
speaks,
is all over the place.
the way Gary Oldman speaks is actually a difficulty for me in this movie. I had to turn subtitles on because his volume fluctuations and the way that Coppola managed to capture his voice with whatever audio equipment they were using at the time is so inconsistent.
He gets
That's-
very quiet sometimes.
Sometimes I can't hear a single fucking word he was saying, and I had to turn on captions when I was watching the movie.
when he's doing the Transylvanian accent,
Yeah.
But this is at once a problem, and I thought because this movie is maybe not sung the praises of for being as funny as it is. Like
It's very funny.
This movie is very funny,
and some of the funniest stuff in the movie, I
Yeah.
think, is when
is Oldman. For
when Keanu as Jonathan Harker
Yeah.
is at Dracula's castle early on, and he's just like, I'm a lawyer going to meet with this weird rich guy who's buying a lot of property in London,
Yeah.
and then he gets there, and it's this like
so fucked
insane
up.
old man
Yeah.
who like doesn't drink wine and just draws a sword on him out of nowhere, and then there's the great part where he takes his razor and just like turns away and just like laps up the blood.
Yeah.
from
Oh
it.
my God, that's so fucking. When he licks the blood,
It's great.
Wait,
It's
hold on.
great.
To finish my very short thought. So Keanu's performance as like some sort of film-breakingly bad performance is so harsh. He is doing a bad job, though, for sure. Like, not a very good job. I can see the motivation for casting him as like this sort of milquetoast, once again, kind of utilizing the like blandly, like the like bland quality of his face when it's like not really doing anything. But he's like handsome. So like I can kind of see the motivations for casting him as John Harker, who's like this milquetoast lawyer guy.
Yeah. Coppola, by the way, is on record as having said when he had the script ready, he like knew the role of Jonathan Harker was just not a appealing or great one. Like the lines are kind of bland. The role's not that exciting. And so he was just like, his antidote to that was to cast basically Keanu as a teen idol because he knew that he had like that kind of appeal. And I'm sure the quote is a little bit joking, but he goes, Keanu's just one of these guys that had just like a ton of young girls screaming about him. And he's like, I didn't have a cast that otherwise drew in that audience. So,
right.
And then the final
stunt
thing,
casting a little bit.
It's stunt casting, yeah. And that's definitely the sense I got from the time. But then the other thing is that Keanu is up against Gary Oldman in his scenes, like with somebody else. And then other British screen legend, Anthony Hopkins. And like, everyone else is just also very phenomenal, and everyone else gets a chance to really like chew up the scenery. And John Harker as a character, as Coppola admits, basically just stays kind of stoic and pious and devoted the whole time, except for when he's getting sort of sexually drained by those like
brides.
three vampire brides, which is amazing sequence when they like just rise out of the bed and stuff.
Part of the point of Jonathan Harker in especially this adaptation of Dracula is that because this version of Dracula, it adds a lot more romance between Dracula and Mina Harker.
It's like the main, it's like the impetus of the whole narrative.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But because it creates more of this attraction between them, you kind of need Jonathan Harker to be the most uptight, bland guy to contrast Dracula for her. As in, like, she loves and is devoted to this nice, boring guy, and then Prince Vlad shows up.
Yes.
And she's like, I've never met a man like you.
I
mean, look, here's the thing. If someone shows up and goes, I have crossed oceans of time to find you.
That's so romantic.
Like, what do you, I mean, like...
That's some lake house shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that in the 7 months.
You're telling me you're not falling for a guy like that when he says something like that to you? Oceans of time.
That is... So this is a movie that we'll post it on the Twitter. We will have already posted on the Twitter by now, but I am obsessed with the trailer for this film, especially because usually trailers in like the 80s and maybe early 90s were still like kind of boring, usually like In a World trailers back then.
Right.
It wasn't until like, usually like the later 90s that trailers started getting more
They're always
more
in a
creative.
world.
Yeah, like there's no movie that's not in a world.
There's In a Time.
In a Time.
Oh, no shit.
We've all seen the trailer for Comedian, right?
Yeah.
Like the greatest trailer ever. The one that's just the voiceover guy in the booth.
Yes, yeah.
It's a documentary with Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
right. When your life is no longer your own. When everything you know is wrong. In an outpost on the edge of space. Sorry, I memorized that entire trailer in high school.
That's great.
But the trailer to this movie
is sumptuous.
It's incredible. There's no awkward voiceover. It's just like really creative editing. It's the actual music from the movie, and they use all those great lines.
And it's just a glorious showcase of just the beautiful shots and scenes that you're gonna see.
Yeah,
but
I honestly I think it's one of the best trailers ever made.
Trailer is maybe better than the movie.
Maybe.
Ultimately.
I like this movie.
This movie's great. It's a flawed movie.
But the trailer
Trailer's
promises
tight.
like the coolest thing in the world. And just the way the trailer kind of begins with Anthony Hopkins going, just like looking into the camera and going, here, Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah, like literally
great.
just
Anthony
you're
Hopkins
gonna be watching.
is so funny.
He's great in this movie.
As Van Helsing. He is so great. Man, I love this movie. Like, it's flawed because it's like, it is long and ambitious. So like, it's flawed in the ways that crop up when somebody is going so hard in the motherfucking paint to like bring you an experience. And like, so,
Yeah.
it's not something, this movie is a classic to me.
It's a classic. The ways that it's flawed is that Coppola's like attention to all of these details, and every shot includes some sort of like beautiful practical effect built in, and everything is designed to enhance the mood, this strange, horrific, erotic, like doomsday faded mood that pervades the whole movie. And the reason why that's a flaw is that it is at the cost of a general sense of like narrative pacing that's just not there, and the characters kind of diminish underneath the weight of like the grand, lofty, romantic ambitions of what the movie's trying to do. So that's why it's flawed, but it's not enough to make you dislike this movie. The movie is so like delicious to look at.
The surface of it
and so fun.
The surface of it is so wild that it does sort of detract a bit. I mean, like from like some of the characters and the story a bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still engaging, but there are points where I feel like, it would benefit it to maybe like focus on a character for a bit longer. Or there are some things that seem a bit rushed in there. But again, it's all like the surface is so incredible that I can really forgive most of that.
Well, there's few movies that I can forgive because I feel like nowadays more and more the idea of like, well, the visuals are so beautiful, like, and people appreciating movies that are like visual masterpieces. I'm very, very like, I don't know, dulled to that as a selling point anymore because I've seen it too much and it's kind of annoying to me when a movie, it's like, sure, it's like a visually sumptuous piece of work, but then there's just like no movie there. I didn't like Only God Forgives for that reason. I thought that movie was a dull
Refn is a little bit guilty
kind of
of
falls.
that. Yeah.
And
I saw the God damn it, Long Day's Journey into Night.
Oh, the Chinese movie?
Yeah.
Did you see it in 3D?
I didn't, which I know you're supposed to like get that whole sequence.
I really wanted to catch that at the Metrograph last month, and I missed it. I've missed it every
I don't know
time.
what that is.
I just like these like.
Oh, you don't know about it? Mm-mm. It's this Chinese movie that it's this. Sorry to like suddenly steal the floor from you, Matt. I'll just briefly explain.
Go, please. I'm dumb.
It's this Chinese like art house film.
Yeah.
But the second half of the movie is like this hour-long single take 3D shot. That is, by all accounts, astounding. I've heard the rest of the movie is kind of boring, but that thing, especially if you see it in theaters in 3D, is like one of the most incredible things people like done in recent years. But what's really funny about the movie is apparently it ends with like a big like romantic kiss from like the two main characters. Ooh. But it was hyped up in China and released on New Year's Eve with the idea being and in the marketing they were like, go see this movie New Year's Eve and have it be like a big romantic thing to go see it, and then at the stroke of midnight, because of the way we'll like time it, these characters will kiss at midnight, and then if you go with your girlfriend, and then like you'll also kiss in the theater. And so it made so much money in China on New Year's Eve, and then everyone saw it and they were like, what the fuck is this shit? This is like some weird art house bullshit.
Yeah.
And then it dropped off so severely the following day. But it was still a hit based on like the biggest day ever.
Wow.
I mean, I'm all
Selling
about
it on kissing.
I'm all about trolling people, and that is amazing.
That does sound funny.
I guess I didn't see it in 3D, so I can't really even speak to the one part that is like the most technically impressive. All I meant was it's like, at least like they were saying, the first bit is like languishing in the visuals, and it's boring as fuck.
Oh, in Long Day's Journey into Night?
Yeah. But in this film is like, because I think they compensate for the characterization. First of all, it's a story everyone knows. He says Bram Stoker's Dracula, so it's it's based off of this book. Everyone kind of knows this shit at this point. And everybody in the movie is giving a very theatrical, over-the-top performance to kind of like, I think, signal like, look, we understand this is like we're not taking this overly serious at all. Like, this movie is very campy in a lot of ways. It reminds me of
Right.
like a combination visually of like Dario Argento and like Ken Russell.
Yeah.
Sort of like mashed together.
Yeah,
And like Akira Kurosawa.
The
in a
main,
lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
the main inspirations are mostly like silent films.
Yes.
Which of course had to be very theatrical because you didn't have dialogue being spoken.
Yeah.
And yeah, and a lot of these, you know, movies that we've sort of referenced that are like visually stunning, but maybe not especially like narratively engaging. Those also tend to be movies that really just kind of are very slowly paced and just
And self-serious a lot of the time.
luxuriate in like their beautifully composed images. And
Yeah.
this is a movie that, if anything, I think maybe it moves too fast. it moves so quickly.
Yeah.
you
But
know,
it's a long movie as well, though.
It's a little over 2 hours.
It's a little over 2 hours. It's not that
I thought it was
long.
like 2:15 or something like that.
No, I think
2:07, but like 7 of those are the end credits. So I think it's like close to 2 hours flat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But yeah, but it's like it looks beautiful, but it's, you know, there's constant like new locations, new characters coming in. It's moving very quickly,
Yeah.
all the time, and so you can't really get bored.
Exactly. Which is why I think we all agree that despite, you know, any flaws that it might have, we still all enjoyed this movie.
Should we read the
Yeah,
plot
let's do the
synopsis?
Wikipedia thing.
Yeah.
Because this is Bram Stoker's Dracula, but it's drawing a little bit from Nosferatu, and a little bit from just like the extant sort of mythology around the origin of Dracula in general.
Yeah,
as
you know what?
like a mythological figure.
Guys, I'm not even gonna read the Wikipedia plot summary. I'm just gonna dive right in,
Okay.
because I think I can cover this, and
Yeah.
I think the way it begins is really interesting because it's one of the major ways it departs from past versions of
Okay.
Dracula.
And it's my
Dra-
favorite
is-
aspect of the movie narratively.
It's so
as
cool.
well.
It's honestly, it's a little bit like, so I assume we're all big fans of the 2015 film Dracula Untold, starring Luke Evans, the sort of official first installment in the Universal's Dark Universe, the
Yeah.
Dracula origin film.
I definitely
that
saw it.
everyone wanted. I kid. I have not seen it because nobody has seen it.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I did tell you the words left your mouth. I didn't know it was.
It's the most recent Dracula movie.
Wow,
It's,
okay.
It's the recent Dracula movie. It is one of those hilarious examples of that thing that you know, similar to like King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, or like Pan and
Yeah.
stuff like that, where Hollywood is like, hey, we have this like public domain character that everyone is aware of. They've been adapted many, many times.
Yeah.
Let's do an origin story for them where they don't become the recognizable character until like the last scene of the movie.
God
Origin
damn it.
story just as a phrase is already irritating to me now.
I know.
Here,
And you
Pat,
know-
let me set your description with a
Yeah,
little
do it,
sound
Jake.
effect here.
That sounds like Homer Simpson.
It does. It sounds exactly like Homer Simpson saying "doe, doe, doe."
Sorry, here, try this one. It's too long.
Too long.
Okay, so the
annoying.
the movie begins in
Annoying.
1462.
Yeah.
and we do actually get an origin story for Dracula.
Yeah.
Right, a pretty cool one.
Yeah, which usually we don't have. Usually Dracula is just there from the beginning, and
Yeah,
we
he's
get
just a spook.
a rad origin story because this brings in the legend of Vlad the Impaler.
Yes.
Yes. Vlad Dracula.
Yeah, and basically he is this prince in Transylvania wearing this fucking awesome armor.
Dude, his armor looks like if you flayed somebody's skin off and it was just their
Well,
muscles.
that's
It looks like
underneath.
muscle.
It's exactly what he's based off of. It's
So
like he's
cool.
wearing a big wolf helmet.
Yeah.
And then his armor looks like the sinews of like flayed muscle. And a little extra bit of information for all you gamers out there.
Oh boy.
Definitely in The Witcher 3, the DLC, okay? With all the vampires in it, that is the vampiric armor that you get is based off of, I guarantee you, the armor set in this film.
Oh, wow.
Wouldn't surprise me. We'll talk about the costumes because they won an Oscar and are very important.
So Vlad runs out to battle the Turks.
So Vlad, he's this badass prince who's going to lead this army, and he goes out and he does some impaling, and he's going out there and he like wins this war. He's killing them, and his wife,
Elisabetta.
his wife, who is also played by Winona Ryder, which will become important. And of course, Vlad is it's Gary Oldman with like long, luscious locks of hair.
He is.
And
a thin mustache.
And those bad old Turks, they decide to play a mean joke on him. And
After he's flayed and impaled,
he's
thousands.
killing their army, and they're like, "Wow, we can get him. We can hit him where it hurts."
Hit him where it hurts.
They send a message to her.
Turks.
They're
basically all the guy from. Sorry, this is not a good joke, but they're all the guy from Scrubs. Turk.
Which guy? Oh, Turk.
That was a bad joke.
That was a terrible joke.
Just that idea is making me laugh. Anyway,
So they send a message
Baby
to her
bear?
to be like, "Hey, your husband died." And he didn't. And she's all sad. And then in a shot that is very, very similar, as in like maybe they stole it, to the shot in Game of Thrones where Tommen jumps out the window and kills himself. She kills herself.
Oh, the shot's amazing. Like the clouds, the effects of those clouds. I feel like they use like cotton balls or something in some beautiful, weird, strange way.
We'll get to the effects.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
she's
that's
she's a good wife.
yeah.
And she does what every good wife should do.
Yeah, when you find out your husband's dead,
If I can't be married,
it.
death for
Yeah.
me.
yeah, marriage or death.
And so she kills herself.
Yep.
And he returns home and discovered his wife is not only that his wife is dead, but that because his wife is, she killed herself and it was a suicide, that now her soul will be damned to hell.
I love this sequence, by the way, because she jumps what seems like 300 feet
billion
out a
feet,
window,
yeah.
and they recover her body and bring it back into the castle, and she has a little trickle of blood running down the corner of her mouth.
Yeah, but
I'm like, how did
good.
her like whole body not just explode?
I can
on
forgive
impact?
her. I can forgive the like that again because of just like the like mythological quality of the sequence.
Again, we just saw a battle scene that was like practically done with shadow puppets.
Yeah,
it's like the whole
and
thing,
a blood red background.
The whole thing is so
Yeah.
hyper stylized and theatrical that like that complaining that like her body didn't respond like the way it physically really would in that scenario. Like who gives a shit? But
I know. I was more making a joke.
I know,
But
sorry. This is just the Patrick is mean to Jake episode.
Yeah.
No, Jake. That was more.
You suck.
Jake, that was
Hey.
not directed at you. That was me addressing the kind of like obsessive, like very literal, logic obsessed people,
Right, which is just
Yeah.
what you happen to have said.
who
yeah, I was exemplifying that point of view.
like that would the people who not jokingly, that would be like a CinemaSins complaint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is my response to those people who suck. But this is
They
this
suck.
rules. This is great. Also, we have Anthony Hopkins as the priest here, which is
Right.
Just okay. This I actually kind of disagree with. Putting Winona there makes sense considering where this goes.
Yes, I agree.
But the double casting of Anthony Hopkins really does not serve a purpose.
No,
I don't think so.
unless it's supposed to be like the lineage of the who is combative with who. Maybe.
But they're not even really combative. He's just a priest who is like, by the way, her soul is damned.
Well, because
Yeah, that's
because
just the rules of the game.
because Van
By
Helsing.
Jean Renoir.
That's what happened when you jump out the window. You're now
Hey,
damned
listen,
for life.
man. This
That's
is
just the rule book.
Anthony Hopkins, bro, dude, your wife. I'm sorry, but she's in hell.
She's in straight hell, dude.
She's straight up in hell,
Okay,
bro.
but like right here, he just there, like in the church, just fucking renounces Jesus Christ immediately.
and stabs a huge crucifix
With
on
a
the
sword.
wall with his own sword.
it's
and the
made of
crucifix,
stone.
it's made of stone, and it bleeds, and it's so crazy, and the blood pours down
Into
from
a
the
chalice.
cross and trickles down the stairs and fills the entire throne room with
And
blood.
he drinks it out of the
Yeah.
chalice,
Yeah.
and he becomes Dracula.
Yeah, it becomes Dracula.
And
Yeah.
if you want to tell me
Becomes the
that
Count.
that is how Dracula
That is
became
how
Dracula,
you do it.
I believe it.
He renounces Jesus and decides to just bring evil wherever he goes in the name of hell.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And
That's
then-
fucking awesome.
It is.
It's great.
Look, stabbing a cross that then bleeds
And
is
drinking the
just
blood.
so cool. And look, you know what, guys? They needed like 8 minutes to do that, not a whole 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
So
They established a
that.
pretty rich and like pretty fun origin story with a huge stylistic flourish, and it takes like 8 minutes to do. It's so great.
It's so quick, and then it's suddenly like 400 years later.
Yeah.
And 400 years later.
Hold on, here's a blood sound effect.
Pat was trying to. Ew.
Jake, I was trying to just cue you.
He was trying to tee you up.
Oh, sorry.
Well, now it's ruined.
Yeah.
Once again, Jake.
Jake, if I dramatically say something,
Yeah.
don't say, "Oh, here's a sound." That's your cue to just play a sound.
Yeah. Okay. You got to give me like big eyes next time. Like, just
Jake,
be like,
you were holding your computer, clearly about to press the button.
God,
what do you think
I'm
was
just not
gonna
making eye
happen?
contact. I'm just in my own head. I'm making decisions.
Jake, I was staring at you. You just weren't looking at me.
Well, that's the problem. I'm gonna look to you guys.
So, Jake,
just
I
like
should
it.
walk around the table and then like push my face close to yours.
Yeah.
So,
I guess he should just do that, huh?
Yeah. Please.
okay,
Get
Jake,
real.
Jake, I'll like stamp on your foot.
Okay. Yeah, that was a wet. I didn't like that noise.
Yeah.
The wet blood
I
noise.
like being mean to you. It's fun.
This is now just becoming the Simpsons
I know
scene.
I established myself as just like a shitty participant of Halloween.
Yeah.
And I feel like this has just set the tone for this whole episode, I bet.
This is just becoming the scene on The Simpsons where they're trying to tell Homer that his new name is Mr. Thompson, and they keep saying like, "When I stomp on your foot and say hello, Mr. Thompson, you say hello."
That's so mean.
I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, I just realized we get to talk about the Simpsons parody of this movie.
Oh, true. Parody this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, from the Treehouse of Horror,
Yes.
Bart Simpson's Dracula, which is one of my favorite Treehouse of Horror installments. And look, you know, making Mr. Burns, Gary Oldman Dracula, a stroke of genius. But we'll get to it. Anyway, we now jump ahead 400 years later.
Right.
It is now 1897.
Yeah, good
And
year.
and here is one of the, I think, really, this is really where the novel begins.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, this is a smaller change that they made to the novel, but I think a really smart one. Because we all know Renfield.
Yes.
Dracula's lackey.
Dracula's lackey. And in this movie, cast so well.
I wish he had more screen time. He's underused. Tomathan Waits.
Tom Waits.
Yeah.
And who is a lawyer at the same firm
Yeah.
as Jonathan Harker, which is the change. In the novel, he's just another guy.
Yeah.
So
He's just some
he's
poor soul.
just he's like his human familiar,
Yeah.
who is
Right.
like basically abused and I don't know.
But the idea is that he had been sent to meet with Dracula in Transylvania to discuss this big land purchase. Dracula is buying like 10 houses around London.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and he's insane and eating bugs all the time, and he's
Yeah.
committed to a sanitarium.
I love that the real estate firm or whatever that Jonathan Harker works for they just shrug their shoulders. They're like, that was weird. John, do you wanna go and see what maybe happened?
this guy went there and he came back like this.
a totally sane person.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he loves to eat bugs now.
Right. To drain
Maybe you
their
just
life.
go over to Transylvania and
Why
see.
can't I
Definitely
remember-
is not Transylvania. It's just him. Don't
Yeah.
worry, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember the name of the famous sanitarium in England?
Oh gosh, there's like a famous sanitarium that Richard E. Grant's
It's not
character.
Arkham is from
Batman.
H.P. Lovecraft though, originally.
Batman.
And then Batman.
It's from Batman.
Yes.
That's where the Joker goes.
Batman. That's where only the craziest people go, like Joker.
Yeah, you have to be this twisted to enter Arkham Asylum. It's like a theme park ride.
Yes, dude.
It's a Joker laugh.
Now, Jake, you're rising back through the ranks.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
You
know what
how many
I'm-
bad reviews do you think we'll get for this episode?
No.
0.
None.
Glowing, spooky reviews.
Guys,
Yeah.
we
should
come-
stop reading bad reviews right before we record.
We should also stop mentioning them. Guys, we come with a stance of love.
No, write nice reviews.
Yeah, we love everybody. We're just doing this for
make
fun.
us feel better.
One love. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Let's get together.
Yeah, guys, let's just be.
Was that like a drunk? That was a drunk man singing. Oh,
So Renfield is crazy. I love the costume design of fuck.
the guards in the sanitarium
guards.
with the cages around their
They
heads.
have cages
What is that?
to keep them from being like bitten by like the crazy people
I
or
guess
whatever,
just punched in the head.
or like from being attacked by about their face.
But
Here's an
like,
idea.
it's the 1890s. Helmets have been invented.
Also,
it is a stylistic choice.
It is.
know.
But actually, when I saw those at first, I thought
I can't keep doing this. Like,
Yeah.
I thought those were
logical-
for the inmates.
Yeah, at
which
first
seems
I
like
did
it would be
think it
a
was.
better decision.
They look like
Yeah.
Silent Hill characters.
They did.
Yeah.
They looked like
Yeah.
they looked like a lesser version of Pyramid Head.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty
Cage head.
cage head,
But so
blockhead.
That's when you're a fan of Nicolas Cage. You're a Cage. Head.
It's true. But the decision, I think, to
Yeah.
tie Renfield just a bit more to Harker and the whole his whole thing of like going to Transylvania to see Dracula, I think was just a smart move. And the way they introduced Renfield in this really like super wide angle shot where he like goes from crouching to standing up, and it's an overhead shot, and so
Yeah.
he seems to like get so much bigger in the
Yeah.
frame, and it's like all tinted blue. Something I want to talk about here.
and he eats a bug.
He eats a bug. And he talks about how the master is going to
like
make him
Timon and
immortal.
Pumbaa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably based a little bit off of
Renfield.
Renfield.
Yeah, I think that's where Lion King was definitely pulling from.
Definitely. They should have cast Tom Waits in the live action Lion King
Honestly,
remake.
his voice not bad for Pumbaa.
yeah,
Yeah.
Anyways,
But anyway, so Renfield
Yeah.
is there, and he's great, and he's crazy, and then we introduce Keanu, who, you know, it's Keanu is miscast,
he
Yeah.
is.
and right away it's like we introduce Keanu, you hear him talk. It's still a little awkward. And then right away it then goes into, oh, now he's doing voiceover.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's awkward.
My
and,
dearest Mina, I am traveling for a few fortnights.
You're doing a better job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's more life in your voice than there is in his.
Right, and there's also a more consistent accent happening through each word.
Yeah, Keanu is suffering exactly from the Tune In Tomorrow thing, where his accent, I think, is preventing him from being able to act.
He's
He's trying so hard to nail it that
all
he
his
can't
energy is going
concentrate
to
on
that.
making any facial expressions.
And it is funny because
Yeah.
he can't act with his face anymore because he's thinking too hard about the words. And he's also getting every other word or every third word correct in terms of an accent even happening, let
Yeah.
alone if it's good. And then he's just not doing the accent sometimes.
It would
for
make
some
me
words.
laugh. Like, he would say a couple words and in a faltery English accent, and then he would get to say something like the word bastard, and he'd be like, well, I don't know, the bastard. Like,
Yeah.
he would say it really, really,
Yeah.
with like the long A.
He's doing like like a bath. I'm drawing a bath.
drawing a warm bath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
so he does his little epistolary segment where he,
does it-
goes
well,
over to Transylvania.
which is smart because
Yeah.
Matt, you were talking about this off mic, because the novel which you have read,
Yeah.
and it's an epistolary novel.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
I mean,
Because you read the book.
you've said the most salient aspect of it, which is that the novel itself is written in terms of correspondence. So it's actually a brilliant book. I mean, not that you need my my
Matt,
input.
everybody knows Dracula.
It stood the test of time.
Matt, scorching hot take, Dracula. It's a pretty good book.
It kind of reminds, it's like Frankenstein is actually, or the modern Prometheus, the
Yeah.
Mary Shelley thing. It's a similar. There's a similar technique there where like through correspondence.
Is Frankenstein epistolary as well?
Yeah,
Oh, I haven't read either.
like huge
Jeez, people, find a new way to write a book.
Yeah.
But I like this because it's I feel like we rediscovered maybe, especially in movies or again like this idea, because it's the epistolary novel was like a very popular form for like romance and stuff.
Let's just shorten it up. So let's just call it a piss novel from now on.
Yeah,
A piss book.
A piss book.
Because come on, what are we gonna say? Epistolary every time?
Yeah, fuck
It's
that. So
muddled words.
I think it was almost like again, I'm just like absolutely making this up potentially, but like these piss books were so popular for I think like romance where like lovers would correspond, and I think like when it was happening, it was like almost like a subversion of a genre at the time, where you take this genre normally used to like have two lovers like
Right.
by great distances like passionately, which is kind of what happens in Dracula, but then make it used for like creepy horror effect where you get various people in various points of view slowly describing something bizarre occurring.
Well, what's great too about the epistolary format, just because, and this is as not having read it, but I could feel it even in the movie, is you get there's the scenes in between the letters that the reader can imagine that actually adds to the spookiness of it. Like if you get a correspondence from Jonathan Harker back to Mina and he's describing, like the horrors that he's witnessing or something in Dracula's castle, but like in the book, you're like, this letter is not going to get to Mina. And then you're reading a different correspondence from Mina, like addressed to him, not knowing what he's experiencing. And you're like, oh my God, while she's writing this normal letter, you already know that he's like being drained of his blood in like a weird like bedroom with a bunch of Dracula's brides all crawling on top of him, and it's terrifying. Like there's
barely keeping him alive by
like
draining
an eerie,
just enough of his blood.
Horrible dissonance between the spaces in between the letters. That
as Dave Matthews said.
Yeah. The wicked lies.
So yeah, I mean like, and it's better than VO a lot of the time, where like it's a different way to do. It's like people communicating through distances, like, and not VO, but you still get to do a VO in the service of like representing the written word. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's
I don't
underused. I don't see it that much.
I don't have anything else to add about that except that the novel is completely letter correspondence,
Which is funny because you wouldn't normally think that's the ideal way to write a horror novel.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at. Is it kind of
Bram
works.
Stoker wasn't a horror writer. I mean, I think Dracula was not, if not his first, then like close to his first attempt at doing this. And he kind of sat on the novel for like a large chunk of time, thinking that it was a little bit of a failure. He was mainly known for writing romance novels.
This is what I was trying to get at. Was like,
and
it's just like
that is a style or approach of novel that is more commonly used for romance than
exactly.
for horror.
But now you get stuff like what, like that email horror movie or whatever, the like
Unfriended,
Unfriended, or like
Unfriended dark web,
dark web, or like the what's that, like a chainmail one, where like it's like, oh, you open the chainmail, if you don't send it to somebody, they're gonna fucking die.
Oh yeah.
Chain death mail.
BCC me.
Fucking.
I mean,
I don't know.
when it comes to horror movies,
Just send it to me on Gmail.
anytime that anytime there's any new kind of like technological thing that exists, there will be some sort of horror movie about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. Like what we were saying, they kind of mash a couple of things together to create this film. Nosferatu being the major other one, especially when it comes to like.
Well, Nosferatu was the first and still probably most definitively influential adaptation of Dracula. Nosferatu is an adaptation of Dracula, right?
Well,
Bram
there's
Stoker's?
the Todd Browning Dracula.
Yeah,
with Bela
Todd
Lugosi.
Browning is but that's after Nosferatu.
That's like the really iconic one. It's after Nosferatu, obviously, because Nosferatu is a silent film. But I would say that the most iconic movie Dracula is Bela Lugosi, which I do not think is a hot take.
No,
Okay.
I think that's the one that's
Not Max Schreck. I felt like that Nosferatu was the classic. I mean, I haven't seen the Todd Browning one.
Wait, you never saw the Bela Lugosi Dracula?
Jake,
Yeah.
we're mad
Really?
at you again.
Here are my Dracula. Here are my Dracula adaptations. Can I list the ones that I've seen?
Sure. Yes.
I've seen Nosferatu, which I love. I've seen Herzog's Nosferatu, which is also great, and an like
Oh,
an
yeah.
unsung comedy in its own way.
Yeah.
You know,
You've seen Blackula?
I have not. I've seen Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Leslie Nielsen, classic.
Gotta love Mel Brooks. And I've seen
A parody of this movie.
and I've seen
Yeah.
the nail in the coffin of Dario Argento's career, Dracula 3000 or whatever the fuck that movie is called.
Wait, Dracula 2000 was the one. He didn't do that one, did he?
He did like a 2012 Dracula movie. Oh no, I think it's just called Dracula 3D.
Yeah,
It
I know.
sucks.
Because Dracula 2000
It's
is
so
the
bad.
one that has Gerard Butler as Dracula.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Big
Yeah.
fat Dracula?
And
Loves prosciutto. He
Yeah.
doesn't drink blood. He just loves
Wine.
ham.
it's so weird to me. It's so weird to me that Gerard Butler, whose career really popped from 300, and then and then his career mostly since then has been
I was thinking of Gerard Depardieu.
Yeah, me too. He said Gerard Butler, and we both thought of Gerard Depardieu.
a bunch of fucking idiots.
I know. That's so funny.
Oopsie daisy.
No, we're talking about Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
The man who shouted, "Tonight we dine in hell."
Yep. Yeah.
That guy. But his career mostly is movies like, Olympus Has Fallen and stuff like that.
And Angel Has Fallen.
And
we can't be here anymore.
Good Gerard Butler.
and also London Has Fallen. The second one.
London has fallen. Christ, the drones are coming, Mr. President. Jump in the lake. Just an old president.
So yeah, basically
Just Morgan Freeman as the president for the 8th time.
Yeah.
So, as in Gerard Butler movies are mostly movies where he is like grumpy and shoots people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is so wild to me that before 300, he played Dracula and the Phantom of the Opera in Joel Schumacher's film of the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical.
Oh, wow.
He is the Phantom in that.
Wow, he's a spooktacular actor.
No, that is the thing. Famously, he is considered to be grossly miscast for both of those roles.
I would say
shucks.
you're I would say
Gerard.
the Christopher Lee performances as Dracula
Yeah, from the Hammer film.
from the
I've
Hammer
heard that's
films
great.
are like a must see for any horror movie fan if you haven't already.
I've only seen one of them, but he's awesome. That was like kind of his most iconic role.
Yeah.
It's like if he was Dracula, and then like 40 years later, he was Saruman.
I've also really,
and
really...
Count Dooku.
Yeah.
Count Dooku.
But he got that whole evil vibe reputation, I guarantee, from that kind of stuff. I would say, to just sort of like split the difference between you two, Nosferatu is like the source text, in terms of film for this kind of thing. Like it's iconic, but I'd say Bela Lugosi is more in the popular consciousness. More people have just seen some sort of like pictorial representation of Count Dracula, and it's always Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
Nosferatu is secondary, even though Nosferatu appears in like fucking a SpongeBob episode,
Right.
So
one of my
like,
favorite SpongeBob jokes
Yeah,
of
yeah.
all time.
But yeah, but really, like, if you buy a Dracula costume in a Halloween store, Jake, you wouldn't know about this because you don't wear
You've never
Halloween
been
costumes.
inside one?
But it's gonna
I've just been in CVS's.
Yeah. It's going to
too.
be
I
modeled
like the
off
receipts.
It'll be modeled off of the Bela Lugosi one.
Yeah.
Someone
it's-
should make a mummy costume out of the CVS,
CVS
receipts
receipts?
because they're so long.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That is a CVS mummy. Jake, you could do that if you
I'll be a
if
CVS
you
mummy.
decide to like
CVS
get off
mummy.
your goddamn ass and just like actually
Get off your
participate in
fucking
Halloween.
ass.
All right, fine. You know what? This fucking Halloween is gonna be so spooky, and you guys are gonna regret that you encouraged me. I'm gonna scare the shit out of both
You're
of
gonna
you.
hide in our apartment.
I'm gonna fucking show up, and I'm gonna make like really realistic, like severed heads of like people that you guys like, and I'm gonna pretend that I'm a murderer now and that I actually killed them.
Yeah.
Like who?
I'm gonna say names of like our friends and family members on the podcast.
Who would you want to kill if you could kill one person that you knew?
Are we gonna get real spooky here?
Yeah.
But in terms of so Jake, have you ever seen a movie with the word Dracula in the title, other than this one?
I just told
Dracula-
you the
Dracula
Dracula
Dead and
movies I
Loving
saw.
It.
I saw
Wait,
Dead and Loving It. I saw both Nosferatus, and I've seen Dracula 3D.
Oh, okay. And
I've seen the first Twilight.
Yeah.
essential.
And Underworld, I've seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait. Okay. Now we're just talking vampire movies. Wait.
That's
have
true.
You,
Yeah,
you
Dracula.
guys have seen What We Do in the Shadows, right?
Yes. I've seen What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, because
Great.
that's fun because it combines like a bunch of different. There's characters in that based on different versions of Dracula movies. Like there's the really old one in the basement is clearly Nosferatu, and then Jermaine Clement's character is like inspired by Gary Oldman in this movie.
Right.
He was the guy who loved impaling people.
Yeah.
And but a very good film. If anyone has not seen it, one of the great recent.
But
vampire
so like
movies.
Nosferatu, like the big thing is like this because there's like the ship.
Coming from the old world.
The ship coming from the dark old world of like Eastern Europe, which especially even like then had this whole like aura of like the Carpathian Mountains and the
I love that
and
stuff.
folklore.
Yeah.
And like these ancient, these older, more ancient civilizations
It-
where
Right.
it's the same-
supernatural thoughts and ideas were embedded into
early
the culture.
Christianity,
Yeah.
like still like steeped in paganism and like
Yeah.
Right. And that trope of that Dracula created of the ancient guy coming from the old world. It was all obviously on Nosferatu as well. Like it's the same thing in Salem's Lot.
But
Yeah.
he brings like a pestilence in the in Nosferatu and in the book, I believe.
Yeah.
Like there's more of like people getting just sick. Like a lot of rats come out. Like there's like
Well-
this notion that like maybe like some sort of vague echo of the plague happens again.
So
in London.
I believe one of the key differences between the book and this film is Dracula's ultimate incentive. Like in the book, the reason why he's purchasing all of these properties across London is because his ultimate aim is to infest the populace of the city with his vampiric plague.
Yeah.
And turn the entire city essentially into vampires.
Right.
This movie obviously has now instead switched it to a strange romance. And it's another thing that I found unique because it takes the vampire myth that talks about Dracula's famous and has been adapted many times, and there's all these like generally well-known rules about how vampires work and what a vampire movie is about, and it turns it into a weird. This is what I found kind of odd in a way that I enjoyed about Bram Stoker's Dracula. It turns it instead into a movie about like searching for a reincarnated lover across time, which is a strange concept to insert into this kind of movie, because I was like, wait a minute, and I don't know if they definitively point one way or another to saying that this is true or not, but like, is Mina Harker actually a reincarnated version of his wife? And if that's true, and that there is the concept of reincarnated souls across time in addition to vampiric people, like what is the what are like the larger rules of this strange romantic and horrific universe?
Well, Jake, just as a small point of just clarification.
Yeah.
I don't think Dracula was going to London specifically because he knew about Mina Harker. I think
There's the moment when he sees
finds
Jonathan's
out.
photo of her, and he
Right.
freaks out. He's like, "Holy shit!"
yeah, he's just trying to get there. He's just trying to live in a more populous area so he can feed. Because he's clearly aging and
He really
needs-
waited a long time. I mean,
Yeah, seriously.
he's already isolated in that castle.
Well,
Yeah, I think he like preyed upon the villagers of whatever small towns his castle was kind of near. He has a weird loyal coterie of like gypsies that like
Help him
and feel
carry out.
feel this bizarre like need to continually serve the gentry of the the area. I don't
Yeah.
understand, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, he wants to go to London simply to like have a food source and rejuvenate himself.
Yeah.
And Mina is like this bizarre providential thing that kind of happens where he's like, do you believe in fate or whatever, when he sees the photo
And
of
that's
Keanu's
totally
wife.
added for the movie,
Yeah.
because in the book, and I say this having read the Wikipedia plot summary of the novel before we recorded, they don't really encounter each other until much later in the book, and
Okay.
and she's just like a woman that he just sort of like partly turns like into a vampire,
Yeah.
just to basically like have some control over then, and also be able to like manipulate her to find out about what the team of people against him are doing.
Right.
And
Yes.
there is no great. It's funny. The tagline for the movie is "Love never dies," and that whole idea is added for the film because of that prologue with Prince Vlad and his wife who died. But I think this is interesting because literally the day before I watched Bram Stoker's Dracula, I happened to watch the movie Candyman,
Okay.
which I'd never seen before,
Right.
Because it's on Netflix. Have you guys seen it?
Oh my god! Like on TV a
yeah, on
long time
television.
ago.
Okay.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Also, Philip Glass score.
Oh. Doodle-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, it's just like
With a
Philip
Candyman?
Glass would usually do scores for like Koyaanisqatsi,
Philip Glass and
and then
Philip Glass
various
and
little art films, and then this one,
This one
this
horror movie?
movie, and it's awesome.
Candyman, the
people?
Candyman, the Candyman, the Candyman, the Candyman, the Candyman.
But one element of Candyman that frustrated me a little bit because it was like a little bit undercooked.
Yeah.
Is the same idea of him, and this doesn't reveal until much later in the movie, because he's sort of like this mythic figure who's like this urban legend, and then
Right.
you find out about his backstory where he was like the son of a slave who then like married or was going to marry a white woman, and then was like, because of miscegenation and people not being into that in like the 1800s, they brutally killed him. And but it's not until much like the last act of the movie, I would say, where they reveal that like, oh, the reason that he's like, seems so obsessed with Virginia Madsen's character and isn't murdering her, despite the fact that it seems like he should have killed her by now, is because she seems to resemble his wife.
Right.
And there I was wondering, like, if he had just like, if some other blonde woman in the
Dead.
past 100 years or so had said his name 5 times in the mirror, would he just have become obsessed with her? Like what is it about this particular woman that that makes him like need to be with her because
Hotness.
of
Right.
because of his her resemblance and it's
Physical attractiveness.
and and like this is one of those ideas about especially these sort of like demonic figures, like seeking some reincarnated version of like their lover through time, that I think is like, it's a fun idea. It's done, and by the way, I think we had this same conversation, except without me mentioning Candyman, when on We Heart Hartnett when we did Penny Dreadful.
oh yeah.
Right.
Because that also involved Dracula and also involved like Mina Harker and stuff like that.
That's
but the thing that I
true.
wanted to bring up, which is this is definitely not horror literature, but it's the same thing that happens in the with the DC Comics characters Hawkman and Hawkgirl.
Right.
And they're a weird case where, because were originally people from the planet Thanagar, who like landed on Earth in ancient Egypt, but then these two people will, in every generation, they will reincarnate like over and over again and always find each other.
Right.
And it's like they are destined to always come back together. And it is these two people. But with Dracula, it's not quite that. It's really
not.
it and I do have some questions about that in this movie. It's because it's like, he isn't reincarnated. He's just been alive for 400
He
years.
renounces God, and as a result, his body and soul makes some sort of Lucifer pact where it becomes an
Faustian.
undead Faustian pact. He becomes an undead person who lives.
Well, they keep saying he lives in the shadow realm between outside of the eyes of God. or
Right,
something
but
like that.
Mina Harker, who again we've skipped over a lot of plot stuff because, but he does, when Jonathan is there having this awkward time at in his castle where he realizes like, oops, I guess I'm a prisoner because I can't seem to leave.
Can't seem to leave, and he keeps licking blood with every chance he gets.
Yeah, and also like it's weird because gravity doesn't seem to make sense, and he crawls
Yeah.
on the walls, and there are these
big
like
tip off. Him
Yeah.
crawling on a sheer wall.
There's
of
also
his
these
castle.
very attractive naked women that seem to live inside a bed and then rise up and then like rub themselves against me and want me to drink blood, but I won't.
Yeah.
I guess I can't leave
'Cause I'm righteous.
But again, that is also a part of the movie that seems to be largely skipped over, but we'll get to that. But he just sees this picture of Mina and then is like, ooh, I'm into her. When I get to London, I'm gonna find her.
Sure. I mean, I never had the misconception that his grand plan was to go to London to find
It's
his
not.
reincarnated lover. Right.
It's
That's what I
not,
mean.
but
I didn't think that either. I know that he sees the picture of Mina and then suddenly is interested because he sees the exact visage of his long lost lover.
And again, it is the exact visage.
Yeah. So my question, or just the thought that just was creeping around my head while I was watching the movie, is just not so much that this is any flaw to the movie, but I think it brings up a weird interesting concept because the Dracula mythos is a largely Christian-based religious conception that where you twist this idea of like this horrific creature that renounces God and lives in a sort of shadow realm outside of his eyes.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. Dracula's sweet. And but Mina Harker
Tight.
is Vlad the Impaler's wife. She leaps off a bridge. She commits suicide, which is sacrilegious under the eyes of the the Lord. And so
Right.
now so she's damned to hell. So what does it mean that her character is reincarnated later?
But
how does this
that's the
Eastern
thing.
like
Is she
Eastern
really
religious?
reincarnated,
I
or does
think the
she
movie
just
points-
look like her?
Well, so the movie
She starts to like
she starts
recollect,
to remember,
but it's hard to tell
these
whether or
moments
not
of their relationship. And you're right; it's hard to know whether or not Dracula is influencing her in some strange Dracula hypnosis sort of way into just buying this stuff herself.
Right.
But even the way the
Because
movie
I think-
ends,
consider that how he influences Lucy before he even physically meets her.
that's true.
But
So
we'll get to that.
it's ambiguous, but even the way the movie ends, right? We're skipping ahead real quick here, just to talk about this reincarnation stuff.
Yeah.
They all fight Dracula, and the movie kind of ends with Winona Ryder and Dracula hanging out in the throne room again. We're back to the throne room where we had originally seen Gary Oldman stab the cross in the first place, and him and Mina Harker are there, and he's dying now. And they have like this strange moment with one another where it seems like they are finally both reconnecting, like the long lost lovers that they were finally having this moment together, except the roles are flipped and he's the dying one. And then it's as if Winona Ryder's character totally recollects everything about their relationship.
It
and
does
the
seem that
movie
way.
ends with literally Gary Oldman dying in her arms, and she looks up to the vaulted ceilings and sees this whole mural of
The two of
them, but with Gary Oldman carrying her dead body in her arms. And if this movie is trying to suggest that, I just feel like the movie really is. If you asked Francis Ford Coppola, I think he is leaning into the idea that she is truly a resurrected version of Vlad's old lover. But if that's true, then I think it's a bizarre idea to insert into a movie, and it's not fully examined. It certainly makes it more interesting.
And I
Is
think
all I was
that-
trying to
that's
say. It
also
just made me-
evocative,
yeah, it's-
you know?
I think that's part of his motivation for putting
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins as the priest in the prologue. He's
Yeah.
like, I mean, is it like a cloud atlas thing where these souls recur through time?
yeah.
Is he saying the true?
But that's a very unchristian
Yeah.
concept, is all I'm saying. For a
it
Dracula character, which is totally
You're
from
right.
Christian mythology, it's weird to insert a very Eastern religious concept into the movie.
Although it could also be like, like Dracula is not himself a reincarnated version of anything, and he could be implanting these memories because, like, once again, like this notion. First of all, like Anthony Hopkins, he plays the priest in the 400 years previous. He plays Van Helsing in
Hell
the
yeah.
current iteration.
Yeah.
Funniest character. But Van Helsing is kind of still, while not overtly a member of the priesthood, he is a devotee of the occult. And, like, I think he is still dedicated to a similar mission because if you remember, like, they introduce him in a lecture hall and he's talking about syphilis.
Yeah.
And he's talking...
Cracking syphilis jokes.
I mean, well, there's like this whole, and I think this is true even in the novel. Like, there's a link between like uncontrollable like carnal lust and like a sort of forbidden sensuality that like is overtly part of Dracula's power.
right.
There's a lot of like they explore this in a lot of other Dracula films and like The Hunger and like Interview with Vampire and all this kind of stuff. There's like a big part of it is like living forever as whatever to indulge in sensuality. And
there's
drink
something
Live
like
blood.
deliciously.
There's
Live
something
deliciously.
lusty and sultry and sensuous about being a vampire.
Right.
Like
No, I
people
mean,
get bit and it kind of hurts, but then
They sound like
this-
they're orgasming
yeah,
constantly.
That's, I mean, the thing
Lucy is
like,
essentially trying to fuck everybody to try
Right.
and lure them into so that she can bite them.
Again,
Yeah.
the mere like the way vampires work, they are inherently penetrative.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's
so
there. It's like you're literally just like making out with someone's neck.
Yeah.
In order
You're
to like
necking.
make them a vampire. Yeah.
So so like Van Helsing, when he's introduced, is talking literally about venereal disease.
Yeah.
And there's all this stuff about like blood infection. So there's like that link, which Coppola makes pretty overtly, which is
Right.
like, there's this, you stop living within the eyes of God. You are then in this kind of shadow realm. There's a bestiality and an overt sexuality to like the action of biting and infecting somebody that is also like part of losing your way outside of like the Christian notion of morality.
Right.
So like there's that which is touched upon loosely. We talked about like civilization follows civilization or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good joke.
And
Which
once
is a pretty decent joke.
Civilization. That is silly. And then everybody's like,
Yeah.
And and once again though, that's a subject that is touched upon enough where it's hard not to register it, but not so fleshed out as to feel like a concrete statement that the
I don't
movie's trying to
mind alluding to stuff.
I don't mind it either, and I think Coppola, I don't think it was his intention to really have any crystal clear thesis based around that idea in the first place. Anyways,
I think it's in the original material, but there's a is a sort of like general like a sort of Christian abstemious, chaste kind of like people that are like that, like Jonathan Harker, for however boring he is the like bedrock or like the hero, I guess.
kinda. I mean, Jonathan Harker, and let's not forget, we also get Quincy P. Morris and Arthur Homewood and
Quincy!
my
Yeah.
favorite Richard E. Grant as,
Yep,
as
Richard E.
Jack
Grant,
Seward.
Who I completely forgot was in this movie.
Richard E. Grant is the classic. If you have a doctor in any movie set this time, they're always morphine addicted.
Yeah.
And like shooting into their arms just as much as
Right.
they're like prognosticating about somebody's mental ailment.
Yeah.
Um,
He's like
so-
he's basically about to age into Clive Owen in the Nick.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Richard E. Grant, because I honestly wish that if we're gonna do a little bit of imaginative recasting, I wish Richard E. Grant was the Jonathan Harker role.
Interesting.
I just think it's a boring role, sure, but he at least would have acted in it.
I honestly
He
wondered
wouldn't have
if
been
just, like-
struggling with his own natural accent.
I wonder if like Carrie Elwes should have played the role. Just someone English, because Carrie Elwes.
Carrie always would have been good too.
Yeah.
He's so dashing.
Yeah, but I gotta say,
He's a good-looking guy.
But Quincy, the hilarious American, who I kept in my head, I kept forgetting his name and just thinking it was Tex.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
anybody
Might
with
as
a
well
southern
be.
accent, yeah.
He's
Hey.
there. He's got rifles, a big old mustache.
Yeah, he's
And,
Yosemite Sam, basically.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's the funny part because again, it's like, part of the whole thing of like Dracula showing up is these women just because of the time have very like repressed sexuality.
Right.
Mina's talking about how she and Jonathan have kissed, and
But she's also reading dirty books like the Arabian Nights with those pictures of very,
Exactly.
very cartoony but pornographic images. I do say.
yeah.
yeah.
But then of course
She gets a little bit of a kick from it.
Dracula is like a sexual liberator.
Yeah, he is. He's like a little Lothario.
Liberating
Don
because,
Juan.
for instance, Lucy had probably never, considered bestiality, and then he shows up and turns into a wolf and fucks her.
Yeah, freaking broaden your horizons, baby.
He also
is
sure-
Dracula.
Also, well, the other thing is the forms,
Yeah.
the monster forms that Dracula takes.
They rule.
They
so
rule.
good.
They're so good. They're also, I don't really know what the rules are. I'm so glad because sometimes he's like a big furry beast guy. Sometimes he's like a skinned looking bat monster.
I think that one's my favorite.
that one's
Wait,
the best
can
when
we-
he's at the end when he's so tall.
Can we rank our Dracula monsters in the movie? Which one is
No,
your
no,
favorite?
just forms of Dracula.
Yeah, what's your
so you can
favorite
also have like
form?
old man Dracula. You can have like hot young Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the end one because he's like when he's like
when he
looming.
drifts into the darkness and then turns into the rats.
When he turns
That's
into a
such a
pile
good
of
scene,
rats,
yeah.
he looks
Oh,
like
that
Oogie
one's
Boogieman.
I thought you meant the last one where he seems older and has those sort of like Japanese type robes on.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all great.
They're all
like we
great.
said, the
No, but let's
design
rank
and
'em.
costume direction is.
I definitely know my
Amazing.
favorite one.
It's the big one when he infects Mina. I like that one, the tall
Yeah.
one, where he's like the most Luciferian looking,
Yeah, like straight up
and he's
demonic.
looming over everybody. Yeah,
My favorite one is when Mina sees Lucy run out into the darkness, and she catches Dracula banging Lucy.
Yeah.
And he's like, his face is like, oh, he looks almost like Jim Carrey's The Grinch.
Yeah.
Except like,
He's like
if
a
you could
werewolf,
make
pretty
him
much.
legitimately disturbing.
Right.
And he's like embarrassed that Mina sees him like this because he knows that he wants Mina to fall in love with him. And he's like, no, not like this. And he looks so fucked up, but like
He's so
scared
hairy.
and shocked at being found.
Yeah.
And there was something to me so disturbing about that. Like, and Gary Oldman just hiding underneath all of that makeup. That was my favorite.
I think
Dracula.
my favorite is when he's a giant bat monster.
Yeah.
I really like that one. That's the one where there's the great scene where they bust in and find him there, and he just like and Van Helsing is holding up a cross, and he like screams at it, and the cross catches on fire.
I love that.
That
Yeah,
rules. And that's when he steps into the shadows and turns into a pile of rats.
Yes.
which
Yes.
is so cool.
He also takes the form of green mist.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's the part where Van Helsing is just like, he can take many forms. He can become, rodents, a bat, green mist.
I love
And
Anthony.
it's just like, sure, he can become a lot of things.
Can anyone do? Well, yeah. He's like, he speaks to the beasts, the rat, the minor beasts. He can take the form of gas. He can be a creature.
he can be hot gas. He
I
can
can't. I
be
wish I could do an Anthony Hopkins.
big
'cause
rats.
That famous delivery of his is put to such good effect here.
Anthony
Yeah.
Hopkins is very good at acting with his mouth while keeping his eyes oddly still.
He is.
His eyes and like the top half of his face remain strangely still, and he'll just sort of stare straight ahead while he's talking.
I will say.
I mean, Hannibal Lecter is obviously the best example.
Oh
but-
yeah, I mean, because that's a whole movie about staring into the camera.
yeah, hello,
As Jonathan Demme loves.
Perfect.
perfect Hannibal Lecter.
But
hello,
I will say
Are they?
sometimes I love him. I don't always love Anthony Hopkins in this role. I think sometimes he's a little cartoonier than I would like. I know he's having a lot of fun with it, but
Yeah.
I think sometimes Van Helsing turns into kind of the wacky old guy that they brought along, which I don't think is really the intent. I think part of that is just him deciding to like really ham it up and have a lot of fun with it, and Coppola being like, I can't really make Anthony Hopkins stop doing that, so
Yeah.
sure.
well, who knows whether or not Coppola embraced that? Because I mean,
but
if Anthony Hopkins is acting,
They almost
over
cast
the
Liam
top,
Neeson in the role.
really,
That would have
Yeah.
been tight too.
he would have been.
And
dude,
and especially
that would've been good.
Yeah, like you can totally see. I mean, of course, they did make a Van Helsing movie starring Hugh Jackman. Mm-hmm.
They did.
A film by Stephen Sommers. The movie that Universal was really banking on being a giant hit that was going to launch a franchise. Spoilers, it did not.
Man, they keep really banking on it, don't they? Universal. They're like,
Yeah.
come on.
Like, what IPs do we have? Everybody has everything else. God damn it.
What is that Succession line? Give me a goddamn.
Oh yeah, I want franchisable IP.
yeah.
You know
Just
what?
every like executive sits
My
yelling
dad
at-
wants it,
Yeah.
and I want to make my dad happy. I can't do a Kendall Roy
Bring me
impression.
franchisable IP.
Doesn't Universal have Minions?
Yeah, they're
Aren't
doing.
they satisfied now?
Minions is maybe one of the most astoundingly breathtaking, just like examples of somehow just something so quickly permeating every corner of the known universe.
Especially something that was not even like the subject of the movie. As
Yeah.
in, they're like, we'll make a movie about this character, and then I don't know, we'll give him like some cute little like pets or whatever, and then kids watch it. We're just like, we want the pets. We like the pets. Give us more of those.
Your little snot-nosed drooling kids that don't have one workable brain cell. Minions. But it's
And
also
it's
a
yellow.
testament to how like how at once like you can create these things and like wield so much cultural power all of a sudden for no reason. It's like people wearing like gangster minion shirts and stuff in Times Square, but also like how little people know how to
Gangster
like
minions.
make that intentionally because
Yeah.
it's like was outside of their like projected, whatever.
It's like a
for-
weird fluke. Again,
Yeah.
you look at. I remember the original trailer to Despicable Me. I haven't actually seen any of these movies.
Me neither.
But the
I saw the first one. It's good.
The first trailer was really heavily marketed around because the premise of that is like he's the supervillain and then has to like take care of these kids or whatever that are like his
yeah.
like
It's like a sitcom. It's great.
his like nieces or whatever. But so much of the trailer was based around like the youngest of like the kids he's taking care of and her having all the cute funny lines.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's like they didn't even know what they had on their hands at the time. It wasn't
Yeah.
until I think the movie came out and they were like, oh, the Minions, that's what people
Yeah,
were
the
saying.
young audience like basically drop kicked that little girl character
So
out the
what-
window. We're like, the Minions are better.
So what we're saying here is Universal. You wanna
They say one word. They
Yeah.
speak a fake language.
But look, here, some advice for Universal. Look, Universal, this is Patrick Willems here, semi-popular YouTuber with a degree in cinema studies, just saying, you want to make Dracula a hit again? Give him some goddamn Minions.
Honestly, do a spooky Minions movie.
Honestly,
No.
vampires.
Make a Dracula movie, but he just has Minions
Yeah.
in his castle.
Yeah,
I mean, didn't they already do like? Isn't Hotel Transylvania already something?
already kind of
Yeah, there's
stepping
three
on
of
that
them.
a little bit.
But,
yeah.
that's,
one of them's
but
on a boat.
That's Dracula, and he has like a whole hotel, and there's all the monsters there.
There's no Minions in that movie.
But put
Matt.
minions in it.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to tell
Are you seeing what I'm saying?
But like rewinding this a little bit
Yeah.
to wrap up this tangent. Sorry to wrap up the tangent. I know that's the fun part of this podcast.
like a mummy.
nice
wrap
one,
it
man.
up.
wrap up the tangent.
But
It's Halloween.
the thing with Universal is when they made the movie Van Helsing,
Yeah.
in I think it was 2004, 3 or 4. I think 4. That year when they made that movie, their whole thing was to put all the IPs in one movie.
Yeah.
To be like, let's take Dracula and Van Helsing and Frankenstein and the Wolfman, and they're all in the same movie.
Yeah.
And they kind of did like they did the reverse Dark Universe, because Dark Universe was like, we'll make the Mummy, we'll make Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein and the Wolfman and all these things, and then they'll all team up.
Yeah.
Van Helsing just went right to it.
Yeah, let's cut to the chase here. Hugh
and then,
Jackman.
and then they'll all team up.
But anyway, this is all a long way of saying that
Backgoon, Mummy, Dracula.
what is this voice?
Freaking welcome for me.
What are you
This is
doing?
Matt's Universal producer who's connecting the threads
And then
on all
they'll be
these.
friends and you'll fight and
What?
That's what they sound like to me.
Matt doesn't like the Universal producing team that decided to put the Mummy
They're
with
making
Dracula.
questionable decisions.
Yeah.
Also, important note: Dracula, traditionally a Universal monster. This is a movie from Columbia Pictures.
Yes.
Whoa.
Actually, the one thing I do want to talk about, because I think this is so wild and weird.
Yeah.
This kicked off this brief trend, or like movement in the 90s. Of studios taking, these classic monster characters and making like just like big prestige R-rated film versions of them.
Sure.
Because this was followed by the Kenneth Branagh film starring Branagh and Robert De Niro, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, I seen that one.
Damn, I forgot
which
about
was
that.
not a hit to the same degree, and that's one that I've never seen it. I've always been curious about it though, because it's written by Frank Darabont, who I think had just made The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
and he
Good on him.
He has always talked about how he was really disappointed by the film that was made, because Kenneth Branagh, as he is wont to do, made a big over-the-top theatrical movie.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think, and Darabont had been like, no, I wrote like a serious drama that was like a faithful adaptation of the book. It was not meant to be that goofy.
The book is still. I also read that, and the book is still genuinely scary. I would say, or like
Frankenstein?
at least the themes explored are more disturbing than any film representation I've ever seen. Like
Yeah.
everyone does this kind of like silly almost thing. Even the God, who played who's in the same way Bela Lugosi? What the fuck?
Who played
Boris
Frankenstein?
Karloff.
Boris Karloff,
Boris
right?
Karloff.
Yeah, like even
Yeah.
that whole thing, the theme is not. I don't know how to describe this in the book. Like the theme is more like this man is doing almost the sacrilegious, act of like revivifying dead flesh and like playing God. And it's a cautionary tale, obviously, about like hubris and like science and how far reason and logic can go.
Yep.
In terms of like, it's a cautionary thing. It's like science can go too far. You don't know what you're doing, really.
Right.
And then the monster is like very. Oh, in Penny Dreadful, they explore it way better. The monster is like this sympathetic, highly intelligent being
who curses his own existence.
his own existence and hates his creator for thrusting him into the world. And he ends up just like it's written in like the form of like diary entries and stuff, and like the beast just slowly pursues Frankenstein, who is so depressed that he made this thing, and it's just fucking killing everyone that he loves. And it's very disturbing. And he just finally like he ends up like succeeding, and then he like just decides to completely exile himself because he's so hated.
Right.
Yeah.
And the last bit is like this Arctic explorer writing his own diary entries about having found like this weird being that lives up here.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That is sad.
By the way, to just tie up the thing that I brought up before, because I did some more research as Matt was talking.
Thanks, man.
I was listening. I was just also just like wanting to get some dates right.
Yeah.
The three sort of updated monster movies for adults that were made, because there was Dracula in '92. And then Coppola also produced the Branagh Frankenstein, which was a box office disappointment. Yeah. One of De Niro's great roles, Frankenstein's monster. It is like everyone forgets that Robert De Niro played Frankenstein's monster.
It's not bad. Like
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Good one, Jake.
That's good, Jake. That wasn't something.
Are you talking?
The monster doesn't sound like that.
Okay, Jake's fired from the podcast.
Jake.
Okay, you were skating on thin ice after your bad Halloween takes. Now you're done. No, but the last thing I wish you
Jake
all
did a
could,
beautiful Dracula rise,
but with
on
his
the couch.
tongue out. He looked like a lizard man.
Hey, cool it.
Hey,
I'm
whoa.
handsome. Dude, I'm fucking hot. See, no follow-up questions to that statement. That's a hard fact.
The other thing I wanted to say was that, so Mary Shelley's Frankenstein came out in '94. The other movie that came out in '94, and these were all released by Columbia Pictures. So this is Columbia being like, well, they're the Universal monsters, but they're public domain characters, so we can use them too.
So you can't do anything about it.
But in 1994, the other movie that is not as well, there's also like no classic novel to base it on. But it's not as much of a remake of any classic film. It's more taking just like the monster and updating it. Is of course the 1994 Mike Nichols film Wolf.
Wolf. I totally forget about
Nicholson.
this movie.
Yes, where Jack Nicholson is a werewolf.
Nichols and Nicholson.
But
That's
it's
a good
also
one.
sexy because Michelle Pfeiffer's there, and
Yeah.
it's like a horror romance.
So the emphasis on romance in Bram Stoker's Dracula is what makes this movie like the most interesting to me, aside from the
Unique.
visuals. And
Yeah.
unique is it's essentially a fairly sympathetic portrait of Dracula. Like he's scary and he has all these beastly, monstrous forms, etc. He does some horrific things. He feeds a baby to his brides that live in the basement. But as established at the very beginning, he is a man who has like infected himself almost with the negative aspect to, I suppose, love, which is that it can create these incredibly intense, bitter kind of feelings.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to like find it again because, he acted rashly 400 years ago. And now he's like,
And also, it really was those Turks who played a mean trick on him.
Yeah, he got duped into becoming Dracula.
I don't know if, well, it was trolling.
Yeah.
He was fucking trolled into becoming Dracula. So yeah, I mean Oldman like does it very well. He doesn't go as full on hammy as Hopkins goes. He gets his moments where he's hilarious and he's licking blood and doing a wild accent. But
that's mostly him like at the beginning when he's like an eccentric old man.
But when he sees this opportunity to like reconnect with a potentially reincarnated version of his wife, he loses all of that, like not all of it, but he becomes very serious. And so even when he is like an actual monster, like a bat creature, his motivations are like he is so desperately focused on at least reestablishing this love that had turned him into a monster in the first place. And he's like the one who's like weeping occasionally and like he wants it so bad.
Yeah,
To put it simply.
Yeah.
So
bomb ass pussy blow your mind. You know what I'm saying?
So okay, we should talk a bit more about the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we've skipped over a lot, and we're an hour and 40 minutes into this episode.
Shit!
Something like that. Yeah, Matt, you were like, this is going to be an hour 40 episode.
Don't blow up my spot camera.
When he is just like on his way to London,
Yeah.
already people are freaking out. Like the people in the sanitarium, they're freaking out. The animals in the zoo are really freaking
Yeah,
out.
they know what's coming.
And a wolf escapes. It starts raining.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he controls the weather too.
Yeah.
Somehow, yeah.
He like Storm from the X-Men.
Yep. Definitely.
It's really just one of those things of like he is an evil force and just like nature itself freaks out.
Well, he's pagan again.
And when he's heading that way, and then Lucy and Mina just start running around in the rain.
Yep.
And just like, because I mean, again, their sexual liberation is about to happen.
Their
sexual liberation is about to ruin their lives.
It really is. And so this is one of the narrative issues I have in the movie, and it's interesting reading about just like the plot summary of the novel because it doesn't quite happen like this.
Yeah.
Lucy, who again is the more like, outgoing, free one, who's like, I'm like, gonna entertain these three suitors and pick one.
She's being a player.
Yeah, I'll flirt with all of them. And Lucy, basically before Dracula has even like docked in London Harbor,
Right.
is basically just like has already been, I guess, like targeted by him, because like almost immediately he is like in wolf-like beast form and like on her.
Yeah.
He kills all the people that were piloting the ship.
Yeah.
And then
he's like the T-Rex in the Lost World.
Right. To gain to gain his strength, which is part of like the Nosferatu thing. And he immediately upon birthing in London just bursts out of his box and flies right to the mansion.
Flies right to the mansion and
just
instead
has
finds
sex with
Lucy.
Lucy.
Yeah. And that and
Pretty tight. My man's horny as hell.
in the novel, he gets there, and it's more of a gradual thing where he sort of like seduces Lucy over time. And people are like, "Why? What is the deal with her? Like, why does she seem to keep like
Does she just have the vapors?
losing blood and stuff like that?" And in this,
Is she hysterical?
Is
Do
she
we need
just-
to lock her up?
Right.
and in this,
This is science
it's so
back in the day.
fast. It's like she's just like. She's gone.
Yeah, she's totally-
pretty much before he even gets to London.
Yeah.
Because it works for the movie because like as soon as he finds out Mina Harker is living there and looks exactly like Elizabeth, he's like, let's do this.
Yeah.
He's good to go. So yeah.
And then of course then he finds her in the streets and she does like kind of reject him. He's just trying to like chat with her.
But
And
here we see his first example of vampiric persuasion. He just sees her walking in the distance in the crowd, and he's like, "Look at me."
Yeah.
And
she
she
does.
turns and gives him a glance, and then
It's over.
it's over.
He reminds
slays
me
her
of,
with his sultry eyes.
When I spent a semester at a film school in Prague.
Yeah.
And there was and I went to school with all these wacky people from all
Which
around
is
the
where
world.
Dracula's also live, right?
I encountered a Dracula or two in my time in Prague.
Nice,
let me
cool.
tell you.
A Dracula.
But there was one guy named Eduardo. From Colombia, and Eduardo is a funny guy who the idea of women excited him. And one time,
What?
Go on. I'm not sure where this is going.
He was just like, you know, he was kind of like the cartoon image of like the
Latin lover.
of the Latin lover.
Got it.
He was kind of like that. And at one point, someone said, like, Fausto, how do you like, you're always like flirting with women. Like, what's your like strategy or your technique? And he says, I do not talk to girls. I look at them like this. And he did kind of a blue steel look and said, and then they come to me.
Wow.
And
Do you
this
think
is-
how facetious do you think he was being, or how like funny do you think he was trying to be in that moment? Did that feel 100% authentic to you when he did that?
Not
Like,
not
that was real advice from him.
It did not seem like he was being. There was an element of humor.
Yeah.
But it was clearly not a joke.
Not enough of an element of humor.
Exactly. Eduardo was a funny guy.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
game, baby. The
Yeah.
game.
But that was him. But here, Dracula kind of the same way.
He's
Yeah.
doing the game's kind of stuff, you know. He's like,
Well, you mean talking about like the pickup artist moves?
yeah, like he's establishing Keanu.
Is he negging?
Yeah.
He's negging a little bit, but you know, he's the supreme gentleman.
Yeah.
And he asks her, where is the cinematograph?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, I'm just looking for the cinematograph. And then
she's
the
like,
wolf-
it's down that way. And then he's like, please, I have offended you.
oh, please.
She's like, no. And then she feels bad.
Please. Can I have your number, please?
I want to see the train enter the station.
Somehow. Yeah.
Oh, please.
So
yeah.
then she ends up accompanying him to the cinematograph. And they watch a movie together. And he's
also
like,
in the background,
and it's
train entering
porn.
the station is there.
yeah.
It's porn. It's like Taxi Driver. He takes her to like a porno theater.
Yeah.
It's just like nude women, and then they.
And he's like, the marvels of the scientific community. And she's like, there's also like medicine and steam powered engines and stuff. And he's just like,
shut up.
and then that escaped wolf barges in.
Yeah,
and
busts into the cinematograph.
and he calms it down. Everyone
Yep.
else runs away, and he's like, "No, look, the wolf."
Yeah, it's interesting because he's very aggressive in this scene too, though. I mean, he like throws himself on her before the wolf breaks in.
And again,
Right.
she is like
totally
engaged
terrifies
to be
her.
married.
She's
and
engaged to
he's
be
this
married.
weird man that she just met. But of course, I mean,
You can chalk it up to his otherworldly powers. You
Yeah,
know?
like everything can be chalked up to just like, well, Dracula's got like persuasion powers.
that's really
I
it.
guess, so.
Which is like why I think there's some funny stuff when
Yeah.
When it's clear that there is like a monster that has like that is the reason Lucy is like getting all sick and kills her and stuff like that, and they're all after
Yeah.
it, and she's like all talking with them about like, yeah, we got to kill this monster, and she doesn't even seem to like
Put two and two together at all.
That like, oh yeah, well, there's that mysterious man, and he does like appear in my bedroom sometimes, and yeah, he does seem to like the laws of like nature and physics don't seem to really apply to him.
Right.
But
Very
again,
hot.
It couldn't be him. Well, I just won't mention him.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's unsure of where like John even is at this point. He keeps postponing it. She's unaware that, again, not putting two and two together, that this man from a foreign country, I don't know, has anything to do with John and him being imprisoned in his castle.
And this is a thing that I wanted to bring up that I find kind of hilarious, but also I think the movie should have maybe given an extra couple minutes to it.
Yeah.
That while all of this is happening, Keanu disappears from the movie for a long stretch.
Yeah, long
Yeah.
ass time.
And then is finally just like, you get a letter from him, and he's just like, yeah, I've been here for so long, and
Months.
these women won't let me leave, and I managed to escape, And I was like, there's a whole story there about his imprisonment, and also considering that they are vampires and they can turn him into vampires because they're doing the classic vampire lore thing of like to fully become a vampire, the vampire must drink your blood and then you drink their blood.
Got it.
For the full like ritual
The
to
vampire
occur.
effect. Yeah.
It's like a
Exactly.
transfusion style.
And I feel like they're pretty casual about like when Van Helsing is like, "Hey, John Harker,
Yeah.
you didn't drink any blood, did you?" And he was like, "No." They're
Are
like,
you lying?
Cool,
Yeah.
great.
Just checking.
Because I couldn't help but think like, so like he's been there for a month or so.
Yeah.
We saw almost none of this. We're really to believe that there's a whole
I
month
know.
he was just like clenching his teeth, being like, "No,
Yeah.
I won't drink a single drop."
especially based on his first encounter with them, which is already so intensely
Right.
sexual and like
And also
fluid transfer.
sexual.
Yeah, like
And
there's
like
a lot of
fluids
fluids transferred.
being- yeah.
And
also like one of them is Monica Bellucci. You're really gonna say no to her?
yeah, she's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
That's
who
that-
are
I mean,
you,
That's
Keanu?
like that's a lot of restraint.
Yeah, and so and Keanu, you know, he's no shabby gent himself. You know,
Nice,
he's a
Jake,
cutie
definitely,
pie.
yeah.
And
I think
his
it's
hair
funny-
is turning a beautiful silver
that's the-
while
no, no,
he's
no.
there because he's so scared.
turns
That's the
black
thing.
again.
It is such an intense like month or so that he's there that his hair turns gray.
yeah,
If you aren't having
Fear,
if
which
you aren't
I
having
love.
the kind of sex within a month of meeting somebody that turns your hair gray and or white, you need to get away from that person.
Yeah, you
and
need to
find
back
the
up. That's a
person
red
who does.
flag
Yeah.
right there.
And this is Matt Torpy on relationships.
yeah. This is
Sexpert.
Dr. Matt.
Dr. Matt, sexpert.
Could this be a recurring segment where Matt gives like relationship advice
have
to characters in films?
in the most most inappropriate parts of like a movie to do that. You'd be like, all right, now it's a little segment called Dr. Matt's
Okay,
Sexpert.
so
I have my
For Much Ado
Star
About Nothing.
Wars species corner or whatever, and I also have Dr. Matt sexpert corner.
Yeah, man, we should have done that for My Own Private Idaho.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, we missed
I
out.
have a lot to say about what you should be doing from that movie.
So
You should be standing perfectly still
Yeah,
and never moving during sex.
still life.
honestly, then you should be narcoleptic and just fall asleep.
Then be a narcoleptic, then fall asleep, and your hair better turn gray.
Yeah.
And those are the three so
Jonathan
far.
Harker just jumps out a window, by the way. For his grand escape plan, he just jumps out the
That
window.
that never occurred to him over the past month.
Yeah, into the river, and then he recovers in a cabin just, a
Yeah.
few miles outside of Dracula's estate.
I think Lucy was being targeted to like create an inroad to Mina because somehow like it seemed also a little bit like maybe through his like communication with beasts and things like this, but like even in Transylvania, Dracula is able to like kind of astral project or something. Like he starts spying on her almost immediately, like at a distance somehow.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's even stuff like in
his eyeballs appear in the sky, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like, we have one of my favorite shots in the movie when Jonathan is just like on the train riding to Transylvania, and we just see this blood red sky and Dracula's eyes just appearing there as if he's just watching him, and that's when he's weaker and older.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, Dracula's powers are sort of vague and not really clearly defined. He can just do a lot of stuff. But I wanted we should talk about all the stuff that's happening with Lucy, because this is
Yeah.
where they call in Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Because again, she does not seem to be well. And there is this
Right.
part that I think is funny where she is like looking real sick. Like Mina comes and visits, and Lucy just seems there is something clearly wrong. And then her this is where she's now been engaged to
The Princess Bride guy.
Carrie Elwes. What's his name?
Carrie Elwes is Lord Arthur Homewood.
Arthur. Okay. And so Arthur and his two oh no, sorry. Richard E. Grant as the doctor.
Jack Seward.
Yeah, Jack is there, and that's when he's like, oh man, she is sick, and then
dog.
and then her fiance and what is it, Quincy the American?
Yep.
They come in and look at her, and her fiance doesn't even like go near her or speak to her. He just looks at her from across the room, like so unlovingly, and just like. Okay, I guess we should do something. She
Hey,
doesn't
man.
look good.
Yeah. She's gross now. What's wrong?
I'm not going to comfort her
she's
at
all
all.
icky.
Ew.
Yeah.
And
has a cold.
And then they call in Van Helsing. But this stuff, I mean, to skip ahead a little bit, she dies. But
Yes, she does.
And then, of course, then they go and like open up her coffin, and she's not there.
Yeah.
And okay, this
and
is
she's a vampire.
She is sexy vampire.
but okay. This I want to talk about this now because Lucy's post-death look is one of the best
Strong.
looks in this film.
Queen of the Damned style.
Yeah, because she has this like really ornate wedding dress with this sort of like massive white collar on it. It's like all this really intricate lace.
It's pretty amazing.
It's so cool, but then also when she's dead, her skin is all white as
Yeah.
well, but then she has the fangs and she like vomits blood and red
Well,
and
she
white.
like she enters. Her entry is so good. They're like, "Where is she?" And then like they're in her giant like
crypt.
what would it be? A mausoleum?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like she enters the mausoleum suddenly, and they're all like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah,
it's
she
her
walks-
vampire Lucy, and as she's walking down, she's carrying a weeping child who she's going to drain of blood, and the candles all start lighting of themselves.
It's literally a midnight snack.
It
So
rocks.
cool.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Whack," and then they straight up compel her into her coffin with the cross. Then they stab her, and then they
chop her
chop
head
off
off.
her head. And then,
I mean,
and then
it's
Van
a
Helsing,
1-2.
Van Helsing is describing this to Keanu, who has like finally like made it back with Mina,
Yeah.
and like they're having a big bloody roast beef after
There's a
chop-
great cut there where it cuts from like her decapitated head to just cutting into this big slab of beef.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Was she at least at peace when she was met her end?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Of course she was at peace. Of course, she was at peace after we chopped off her head and removed her heart."
Yeah, but I want to talk about the costumes here because this movie won an Academy Award for costumes, and the costume designer was what's her name? I think it's like Aiko. Jake, do you have it?
I'm looking it up now.
Jake.
Team Ico.
No,
I
it's
can't read your mind. Hold on.
EIKO, I believe. Is. Oh my God!
I would live in
this
this
is
movie.
bad podcasting.
We got dead air, folks.
Jake, I only have one hand free because I'm holding my mic with my other hand. Jake, find her name.
we got
Find
dead
the
air,
fucking
folks.
costume designer's name. Fine.
Eiko Ishioka.
Eiko Ishioka. And so, which is okay because she is not traditionally a costume designer for film. Well, she was not. She died in 2012. R.I.P.
Oh.
But she painted the famous movie poster for Apocalypse Now. And so she worked. She's mostly she was a Japanese art director who mostly worked in like advertising, but also did stuff for operas as
That's
well.
interesting because I was about to say, if anyone has seen the movie Qui-Gon, that it kind of looks a bit like that, the kind of like Japanese like ghost story movie.
Well, she didn't work on that. She was the production designer for the Paul Schrader movie Mishima: A Life in Four Chapters.
That's a good one too.
And she was originally going to be the production designer on this, and then Coppola saw the sketches she had done and was like, "Oh shit, no, you're making the costumes."
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna do that now because this stuff rules. And and apparently,
big shout out to her then. Damn.
yeah. I mean, again, we already talked about the muscle like armor that he wears in the prologue.
Yeah.
But everything like she was working on the crazy wig for old man Dracula. And then of course Yeah, I mean, so much of this stuff is so cool. There was the makeup effects by Dick Smith and Greg Canham. Again, the makeup. You look at all the different monstrous looks for Dracula in this movie, and they're incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty astounding.
Also, good old age makeup on Gary Oldman.
not bad.
It's one of
yeah.
those things where like it's like a practical effect kind of thing where you notice that it's not real, obviously, but it doesn't really matter. Whereas in a lot of cases, I feel like it looks fake and that matters and it's bad, and you're like very aware of it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it doesn't. You know who else kind of nails it is is Bill, right? In Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, as his
Yeah.
playing his own grandmother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're right. And so another thing I want to talk about, since we're talking about like the crew here, one thing this movie is famous for is the very, very old school in-camera optical effects, where Coppola was like, I don't want to use any modern digital effects. I want to do it not even just like 1970s and 80s style with like all this practical stuff, but I want to do it like silent film style. I don't want like any compositing or anything like I don't want ILM working on this. And what I find so funny about this is that he made, and I say made because it doesn't seem like he had a whole lot of say in the matter. He made his like 26-year-old son Roman Coppola be the visual effects supervisor. Like he fired a company that was hired because they were like, well, we'll use like digital stuff, and he's like, no, none of
Roman?
that.
Yeah.
Hey, Roman, my son.
Yeah.
What's up, Dad?
Stop playing SNES or whatever was out.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah. Again, Roman Coppola does not have like a long career before this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he'd never directed anything before that, and I just think it's so wild that Coppola's just like, okay, my son, you're in charge of all of this super complicated stuff. Figure it out. We have we like don't have anything else to do.
That's
also,
sick.
This is
I wish my dad would do something like that.
This is Roman Coppola's only credit for visual effects. It's not
Right.
like, Roman is always working on the stuff and he has like a history of doing this. It really seems to me like I'm probably wrong here, but I'm imagining Roman as just like his sort of like doofus son who okay. I'm because I guess like
Doofus, yeah.
because the show Succession is just on
Roman
my mind.
is really hard to think of as not a fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just imagining, Roman Coppola as just like cousin Greg from Succession, who's just being like, "Hey, you're here. You figure it out. Just do the visual effects. It can't be that hard."
He's like Jared Kushner. Like he's getting put in charge of arguably the most
Whoa,
difficult
that's
job
harsh.
on the in the
Yeah,
film.
brutal, Jake.
All I'm saying is the analogy is you're getting put in charge of one of the most complicated aspects of this film. I mean, this film, we've all said it already. The visual effects is the craziest part of this movie. Like,
Right.
the
Yeah.
attention to detail and everything.
What
so
you
to
should
just
come
throw
for.
somebody who has no prior experience in charge, it's like,
And they crush it somehow, though? Like, that's the other thing.
That's where the analogy does not work anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
Obviously,
they actually, yeah.
Roman Coppola, if he was more than just sort of like an empty suit in this particular role, he did a great job.
Yeah.
Overseeing the
If this
special
wasn't just
effects
some
of this
weird
movie.
sinecure that he got from nepotism and like some unsung genius is the actual cause for, this coming together like it did, then good job, Roman.
I mean, it just runs in the Coppola family blood.
The
Like,
bloodline?
Yeah,
their
but
blood.
but again, but for instance, like
Halloween.
the last
Remember?
time he suddenly decided to suddenly make one of his kids like give them an important role, it was Sophia in Godfather 3,
Aw,
which he
poor
just got
Sophia.
shit for years. So it's really lucky that it worked out with Roman because there's so much complicated stuff, so much like rear projection stuff and forced perspective to create these crazy shots. And it's like, use of doubles and stuff like that. Like, again, there's like, I remember I had the DVD of this. I got it back in like when it came out in 2007 or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's like a huge documentary just about how they did all these insane effects.
It's great.
And okay, another
So
behind the
great.
scenes thing that I think is wild about this movie is that Coppola's company, American Zoetrope, was like bankrupt. And
I thought they had repurposed a lot of cash after the Godfather 3, which was his big attempt at a cash in.
it was, except I think they were still not fully back.
Oh my god!
And so
this
this
what you get for making one from the heart, you dum dum.
also
yeah, how dare you
also
follow any
everything
sort of...
Coppola did in the 80s.
Yeah, I thought. Okay, here is my Coppola mythology: is that One from the Heart so thoroughly bankrupted him that everything he did in the 80s was an attempt to dig his way out of that hole, and it was all work for hire.
Yes.
That is always the Coppola narrative I've known.
Sort of, but like...
And then finally he just couldn't do it, and he's like, fuck it, Godfather 3. Like, we're going to just do something that will guarantee people put their asses in seats in a theater.
Right.
I mean...
Reviled film.
And then everybody hated him and his daughter. Like, personally attacked his poor daughter.
Yeah.
It's just like, there couldn't be anything worse.
I
understand that it maybe didn't do as well as he hoped. Is that why he was still not out of the hole?
Yeah,
This poor guy.
From the research I've done, it's like, you know, obviously Godfather 3, which people, you know, again, its reputation is, oh, it's a disaster, but it's like, it was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It made like 3 times its budget back.
I've never seen it, but I know its reputation is partially hurt by being part of 2 absolutely classic films, and in comparison looks worse than it is.
Right.
And then there are plenty of people now with like a little bit of hindsight. They're like, yeah, Godfather 3 is not that bad.
I honestly, I own 2 copies of it, and
Of the Godfather Part
I've
3?
never seen it. So I really should at some point. But yeah, but this is what I think is so wild, that like Coppola's like sort of like last big attempt to save his company.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I need a hit desperately.
Yeah.
So I will make this crazy, super weird, and like ambitious theatrical version of Dracula, where I'll like make my son like somehow figure out how to do all of these like outdated like visual effects techniques that modern audiences might just outright reject. Like, he's making like a lot of he's taking a lot of really big swings with this movie.
Honestly,
when
you
so much
understand
is
why
on
people
the line, and it did work.
You understand why people don't want to invest in him, though.
Yeah.
It's like, even when he's desperately trying to crawl his way back out of the hole, he can't. I mean, it's commendable in a lot of ways. Like, he cannot relinquish whatever vision he decides to latch on to. But,
right. And again, and what does he do after this movie? He makes Jack.
I don't remember that movie that well, but I love Robin Williams, so I'm going to assume that movie's still good.
Yeah. How about a movie about progeria? And we'll have the funniest man of the time play someone suffering from that, and everyone with progeria was probably like, "This sucks. This isn't. You don't just turn it. I don't just turn into Robin Williams.
You're not just an adult man with.
I look fucked up. I look like one of those Akira kids.
This isn't basically. This isn't basically the movie Big. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's big.
So, but Jack. I will say I haven't seen The Rainmaker, his '97 John Grisham adaptation, but I hear it is very good.
Yeah,
I just recently watched The Firm for the first time since I was
That's
like
a great
14.
Firm rocks,
and it's so good. So I'm just like, I know it's Halloween season and I should be watching spooky movies. I kind of want to just watch like 90s John Grisham adaptations.
The Firm is spooky as hell.
Yeah.
Like being blackmailed into like a law firm that you start to work at, and then you find out everybody's corrupt and now could kill you based on the
Jake,
information.
you keep turning away from the mic.
Sorry.
No, the thing is, the
have
Firm,
you never podcasted before, Jake? Jeez Louise.
The Firm is basically just Rosemary's Baby. It's like the same thing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's the
That scene
same
when
plot.
Tom Cruise turns all the music up, and then he's
so
like,
good.
"Shh, don't talk."
And
That
just
scene when
whispers
the
his wife's
devil
ear.
has sex with Tom Cruise,
Oh yeah.
and he becomes pregnant and has a penis baby.
What? Tom Cruise becomes
Hey
pregnant.
guys, my blood sugar is dropping.
Do we need to end this episode soon?
I'm so hungry. I hate to be that guy.
Okay, we're now more than 2 hours into the episode.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, I will say one thing that we should mention here, because it was in the news last year. After Jonathan Harker escapes from his imprisonment, and then he gets a letter to Mina, and she goes and meets him in, I think it's supposed to be Hungary, and they get married there.
Yes.
Apparently, when they were,
I thought it was a Romanian convent.
yeah, fine, it's a Romanian convent. Oh no, sorry, I remember now. They reshot that scene. They shot it multiple times.
Right.
But this came out in the interviews when they were doing press, when Keanu and Winona were doing press for Destination Wedding, a film we will cover next year. That when they shot that scene, they reshot it in L.A., but with a real priest playing the priest, and they were like, I think we might technically be married because that is a real priest performing that ceremony.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the interview. That was cool.
Yeah. And this is one of those on-screen pairings where, like, even if, you know, like Keanu in particular is struggling with an accent, they do work great together. And it's kind of like it's funny how Keanu and various like leading ladies he's had, like Winona here, who then he reteamed with in Destination Wedding, like 25 years later, and then like Sandra Bullock in Speed, which we'll be covering soon, and then them reteaming in The Lake House. Both of them were sort of like hyped up, like they're back together. Finally, you fell in love with them before, and
It's Winona and Keanu have been in multiple movies, though. We get to do like
who?
Winona and Keanu.
What else is there?
A Scanner Darkly.
I forgot she was in that.
And Winona and Keanu, Private Lives of Pippa Lee.
Private Lives of Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't realize that.
Winona and Keanu are in 4 movies together. Now, whether or not they share any scenes, I'll have to, when we watch those, I'll have to see.
I did not know she was. I've seen A Scanner Darkly. I forgot, but it does. Okay,
their relationship as characters sharing the same fictional universes echoes across an ocean of time.
Ooh, nice. Yeah. I mean, Keanu, again, because of just his look, he does seem to pair well with similarly pale, dark-haired actresses.
Yeah,
you've got Winona here, you've got Sandra Bullock, and then of course there's Carrie-Anne Moss in The Matrix.
Yeah,
Carrie-Anne Moss has some Winona-like energy.
Oh, definitely.
Because, you know, Keanu, Chinese, Hawaiian, Canadian.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Winona,
yeah.
Ashkenazi Jew, I think.
Maybe.
Dark, petite, from the freaking Ural Mountains.
By the way, our listeners can't see this, but
Matt is lying
I'm going to take
down.
a picture. Matt is lying on the floor, holding his mic up to his
Honestly,
face.
we should do podcasting like this more often.
No, we should not. We should wrap up. Jake, let's power through this because Matt is fading.
Matt's literally dying.
Matt, can I hand you a cookie?
Yes, actually.
Here.
Oh my God.
Here's a cookie that I baked.
Oh, thank you.
Enjoy.
Okay.
It's the season for treats.
That's
also
like
tricks.
a combination of my husband, my mom, and my grandmother.
And this is where I tell you, Matt, it's your turn to clean the bathroom.
I don't want to do chores, dude.
Okay.
Go to your room.
But at this point, so they kill Lucy.
Yes.
And now, and then they're working on, okay, we gotta get this guy. I will say one thing that I sort of wish had been explored more is the whole idea of Dracula having 10 homes around London, so that he can sort of like, you know, spread himself like through this city and sleep in all these different places as he sort of takes over the population.
I was really hoping it would like factor in the way that like the like ley line monuments in From Hell worked.
Yes.
In Whitechapel. But
Yeah.
they just was like,
He really doesn't use many. He uses like one of those homes and they burn it down.
It's weird. I almost think
oh,
that
and the other mythological thing is he needs the soil from his homeland in order to like rejuvenate during the times when he's resting.
All these boxes of dirt.
Honestly, thinking about it now, I wonder if one of the ways to have the movie a little bit more streamlined and then allow you to focus on the characters was to, look, if they're not going to follow the source text and they're going to add this whole reincarnated lover that Dracula's trying to get reunited with, that you could almost take out the land purchases, but maybe that they didn't have the, I don't know, the ability to think outside of the source text as much as they should have,
right?
And really just depart from it and go like, Dracula's not buying any land. Let's figure out a different way that he reconnects, and it's just about him trying to like usurp this marriage he finds out about in London and reconnect with this woman. Yeah.
I will.
It's called Destination Wedding, and Dracula's
Dracula runs
destination
into the church in
is
the midst of the
London.
wedding. He's not right for you.
Yeah. Keanu's just like the Baxter,
Yeah.
who then like the boring guy she's dating before she like runs away with like, oh, the guy that she used to know in this
Yeah.
past life, right?
She's talking to her friend. He's a Dracula.
But I mean, here's the thing. I would, in a heartbeat, watch a 3-hour version of this.
Yeah.
That just like flesh all the stuff out more, and just
agree.
and really took its time. Like I had a blast watching this movie,
Me too.
And especially and like this part that we're about to get into, also really fun. But I would love just more of everything and just explore all this stuff more. Like take your
Right.
time with Dracula, just like making his presence known in London. But then you have him. This is the part that I think is really funny, where they're like, okay, we got to keep Mina safe.
Yeah.
We will put her in the sanitarium. Basically, she will stay in Richard E. Grant's like chambers.
What
Yeah.
made them think that that anywhere is safe?
I know.
Alone.
Based on
That's
Dracula's previous ability to show that he can just sort of
He
materialize
can
wherever
be
he wants.
missed. They knew this.
Dude, he's missed. There's no crack small enough that he can't seep under.
He's
Yeah.
missed.
But then they go and they burn one of his houses down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then while this is happening, he sneaks in mist form. He's like getting sexy with Mina. Then they come back.
He kills Renfield.
Kills Renfield. He becomes a bat monster.
Yeah.
Who then he goes from bats to rats.
Yep.
Honestly, so cool.
One
yeah.
of the most
Yeah.
beautifully artistic and horrific transformations that I've ever seen.
The
I
way
love
he
it.
just goes into darkness, the eyes remain.
Stay red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
God
so
damn it.
cool.
And then he unfolds his arms, and then suddenly, like the light from some undetermined source blooms onto it, and he's just like a rat king, like a chain of rats all clustered together in the shape of a human that just falls apart.
This movie rocks.
That was cool.
It does. But then what basically happens
Yeah.
is a chase begins.
Yep.
Across continents.
Yeah, where
Or I mean,
Dracula, like wait,
Countries.
remind me, why does he flee back to Transylvania? Because they chase him. Right?
Yeah, so the impression I get is Dracula, they don't really give a good reason other than Dracula like needs to rest to like recharge his energy or something.
I
There's
think
something
he's figured
strange
out-
about him needing time to, after having fully taken over people like Lucy and having sort of semi-claimed
Oh,
Mina, he needs to
they've-
recuperate
they find
from
his
that.
shit and
they've
start to destroy
destroyed-
all his soil.
They've destroyed all but one of his boxes of soil, and he needs to
Right.
sleep there. And so he's like, "Oops, I'd better go home with my last remaining box." But he, but he,
And he's
Wow,
kind of like
that made it sound so lame.
he's like buried up to his just neck in soil the whole time, which is kind of funny. Like he's just sitting in his box, like
Well, you see, Van Helsing broke all of his boxes of soil, and that's like basically like burning your mattress. Like he has
Yeah.
no beds anymore.
That's
Yeah.
also that's one of those aspects of Dracula that you really have to kind of downplay because otherwise it's just really dumb.
Yeah,
it's like
what is he, a worm? What are you, planting him?
right, exactly. Oh, like we're gonna kill you. We're gonna defeat you, you big mythical evil monster, by just like breaking your dirt boxes.
Yeah,
you
with
don't have any
hammers.
more dirt to put on you.
exactly. You just like,
So he's fleeing back via
Yeah.
his ship and his control of the winds and the weather.
and they're going by train.
And they're tracking him, but he ends up like outmaneuvering them, and they figure out it's because he's infected Mina, and he is able to then like hijack her consciousness to like spy on them.
Yep.
So he's kind of like has a mind meld with her. So then they use her as a decoy and send
I like his bait.
as bait. Van Helsing splits off with her.
And she makes out with Van Helsing at one point.
Yep, she's
Because-
at this point she's
Very
pretty
weird.
thoroughly infected, and she is horny for
Because
Dracula.
he half vampirized her. Because didn't they caught him in her bedroom like before she drank his blood?
Exactly.
No, she did drink his blood.
She did.
That's a little unclear.
Again-
She's sucking on his nipples too. This is maybe the sexiest scene. She's
Yeah,
just
Like he wanted her.
sucking on Gary Oldman's titties like she wanted him.
calling him.
all the time.
And
Hey,
Gary Oldman.
That song appears in a Coppola film.
That is true. A
Gary
Coppola
Oldman
film.
straight up comes in that scene, like from getting his blood sucked. It's crazy.
Nipples are
I
an
mean,
erogenous zone.
we do not witness ejaculation.
No. I'm not saying like he's doing the vampire equivalent.
Yeah.
It seems like the most ultimate sensual vampiric bliss you can experience comes from fully giving over to somebody else receiving vampiric gifts from you.
Yeah.
That was such a tortured sentence.
No, honestly, this is one of those situations where like I know they're doing like a big wild theatrical thing, but I do appreciate the very strict vampire rules of something like maybe Let the Right One In or like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where it's like
Buffy.
if this happens, this is what happens. Because here I'm just like, shouldn't she just be a vampire now?
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Why is she okay in daylight?
Yeah, she's like 3/4
Well,
of a
they
vampire.
established that vampires can walk in the daytime. They just have their powers are so
True.
good.
True. And yeah, but
Booyah!
okay. But I feel like there should be a part where like maybe she like looks in a mirror and like it shatters or whatever.
Yeah,
or,
no
or-
reflection.
Yeah. And but I do think this part is cool because then we have like a carriage chase where they're chasing Dracula's carriage and just his sort of like his minions.
Banana.
A bunch of little like yellow tube
Fucking
beings are they're riding his carriage where he's just like hiding in the dirt in the back.
Yeah, and the sun is slowly going down, and the
it
key is to
looks-
get there before that sun goes
And
down.
it looks awesome. And it's one of those things where because they shot this movie, again, because the Coppola was like, my budgets tend to go out of control. It's not going to happen on this one. So they shot it all on sound stages so they could like control the like weather effects and the light and stuff like that. And then you have them like arriving at the gate to the castle right at sunset. And the lighting looks so good on this.
it's very cool.
Yeah. This last battle is pretty like thrilling, like the chase, and then like
Also along a cliffside, and you got like the miniature and the matte painting of the castle in the background.
Yep.
It looks amazing.
and
It
then
looks
like
better than
he
CGI.
emerges. He bursts from his box, just like emerges in like you said, this almost like a kimono style like robe thing, and he's old, and they're attacking him. They slit his throat, but he's not like dead. And he like punches one of them, and he like goes. The guy goes flying,
and then
he's
somebody
like-
else stabs him.
and he's like, "Oh fuck!" And then
And Tex dies, and by Tex I mean Quincy.
Quincy
Yeah.
dies, and then for whatever reason, they're aware that like now it's time for Mina to take over. There is a bizarre
Right, it's like now. I guess you are
hesitation.
his resurrected wife from 400 years ago. I guess you got to be the one to do it.
right. They just went through so much bullshit to get to fucking Transylvania.
Yeah, to get to
they're
Transylvania.
Like, and then they're like, "No, wait, our job is done. We must allow this to happen now. It's Mina's work has just begun." I'm like, how do you fucking intuit that?
Yeah,
Anthony.
But it's also like
Hopkins.
things are moving so fast, and you get kind of caught up in the frenzy of it that you don't really question it at the time. It's really
And he's
afterwards.
right, you know.
Yeah,
I guess
This is this. I mean, we've already mentioned this. The movie starts to speed up, and I mean, talk about an abrupt ending for this film that you wish would languish a little bit in just its bloodiness
cuts,
or something.
especially like at the end, it cuts to directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah.
So fast. There is no epilogue in this film. But yeah, I will say one thing I like. I like that this sort of like weird little side plot where a bunch of just dudes become friends.
it's about dudes being bros for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
you have like the
Guys only
You have like
time.
the bro club there, where it's the three suitors of Lucy. The guys,
all in love with the same woman.
the guys she didn't pick don't seem to hold any grudges, and are just like, well, I guess we're friends now.
Yeah,
Well,
let's fight
there's
vampires
nothing
together.
more like bond creating than murdering the same hoe.
Also,
Exactly.
Remember
you know?
when they introduced Richard E.
Yeah.
Grant as he enters a party and
It's
trips
good being
over
friends with other
over a
guys.
polar bear rug?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a klutz.
That
It's
is-
probably
that is
because
his
he was
entrance.
high on morphine.
Probably. But I like how those guys are like,
Yeah.
they all meet because it's like they're all chasing the same woman, and then they all kill her together, and then it's like, oops, I guess now we're the kind of bros who,
I love you,
who
man.
travel to
Yeah.
Transylvania to hunt vampires together.
Yeah.
Also, here's
Did we just become best friends?
Oh my god!
After
we're the
killing
three
Dracula?
best friends that anyone could have.
here's a thought. What if they just let Dracula go back to Transylvania?
Yeah, it would be pretty low stakes.
Yeah, what if just let him go back there?
Get it?
Then he's just gonna come back later when he's feeling good again.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the
but-
problem is he already came once. So
But then they could
Shut up, man.
Then
He'll
they
come
could just
again.
like
Matthew.
honestly, they could just hang out at the harbor are just like just keep track of like what ships are coming in. Be like,
Yeah.
oh,
Well, that
when it-
sounds like it sucks.
Yeah,
you want to keep track of the harbor?
You know what sucks more? Going to Transylvania and dying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tex
but
is
it's
dead, dude.
It's one and done versus looking at ships for the rest of your life. Okay?
But also, he's so far away. It's
Yeah.
like maybe Dracula learns his lesson. Is like, you know what?
I'm tired.
I won't go. You know,
just gonna go to sleep.
You're going to bank on that?
it's like
It's an immortal creature.
What is it? The
and he loves Mina like
And he
hard.
loves me.
you know, it's like the Dennis Farina line from Snatch when he's like in customs and they go like anything to declare. He goes, yeah, don't go to London. That's Dracula.
Yeah.
Do not go in there.
yeah. It's the Ace Ventura bit when he ruins the bathroom.
Woo! Rough crowd.
The part when Connor for real does that in Popstar, but he takes a shit in the Anne Frank house. Do not go in there. Ace Ventura. Good
Popstar.
movie. Anyway,
So Mina and Dracula have their moment together.
It ends on a romance note.
And then the movie just basically
She stabs him and cuts his head off,
and
and
then
looks
he
at a
dies.
painting.
And looks at a painting, and that's like, cut, directed by Francis Ford Coppola,
Yeah.
with
and
arms
then we
wide
get cool
open
music,
plays.
and then we get the Annie Lennox song from
Yeah.
the soundtrack.
Oh, Annie Lennox, yeah.
Because this was that period where you had to have your big like ballad.
Yeah.
And you know what I wish there had been more of? I know I
What?
mentioned already that this began this very brief period of just like prestige adult like horror reboots in the 90s. But also it kind of kicked off this wave of like classy, also prestige-y, big budget vampire movies because we had Interview with the Vampire. Was it like the following year?
That sounds about right. Yeah, I
it's
mean, it's
also-
very, very close.
Also a good one.
And which I watched earlier this year. I think you did, Jake, as well.
I would say a better movie overall, less of a visual feast. I love
Yeah.
Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And
yeah,
Tom
no,
and
Interview with the Vampire was 2 years later.
It's 2 years later. Yeah. Once again, though,
Shout out Anne Rice.
Yeah. But also
living in New Orleans and just writing vampire stories.
Sexy
and
vampires.
that's when we're like, I'm not going to attribute that getting
Before it
made
was
to the
cool.
success of this because the Anne Rice books were just so ridiculously popular.
Already, yeah.
But again, like I think watching that kind of recently and watching this, I'm like, when it comes to various like horror creatures, I think
Yeah.
vampires are my favorites because there is just something about the like, the immortality of it, the like living dead aspect of it, like also just like the sort of like the classy gothic nature of it.
Oh, there's so many great quality. I mean, you and a lot of other people. There's a reason why there was like a vampire
Yeah.
resurgence
Right.
in like the aughts that
Zombies
happened. That
have always
suddenly
have recently been so
Yeah.
dominant, but like vampires have lasted forever.
Right,
because you can be spooky and sexy. There's no other monster you get to do that with.
I mean, and with vampires,
You
there's
can do spooky stuff and sexy stuff.
vampires. There's
true.
also
at the
like
same
there's
time.
the class aspect.
Frankenhooker. That's a good movie.
There you go. But with vampires,
Never heard
they're
of
usually
that.
from like the aristocracy. They
Yeah.
are these like
They're rich.
opulent rich people.
Yeah, so you
who
even
then
get,
who
like-
then show up in different neighborhoods and just like prey upon people. And there's something. It's like it's
Damn,
scary.
Hollywood. That makes Hollywood vampires, even though that's Johnny Depp's band's name.
Exactly.
Would be like, that's a sick.
That should be a movie.
Right, and they're pedophiles.
Well, come on. We don't need to drag it down to
Well,
like
you know,
terrible.
we're like what was it? We're 2 something hours into this episode. It had to happen anyway. But I'm just saying. I wish we had gotten more of that like wave of vampire movies in the 90s. Like with those two, it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we've got to end this episode.
Yeah.
Is it?
I love you guys.
This is a long one.
You guys are my friends.
Does anyone else have
friends of
anything
mine.
they want to say? I wish Francis Ford Coppola had kept making good movies. I think Keanu is. Look, again, he's miscast in this movie. He is bad. I don't think he ruins the movie. There are again. I think like Tune In Tomorrow wasn't as high profile a movie. I think it's a performance that hurts the film more than this.
Yeah,
For sure, yeah.
I think this movie in the light of 2019 is not the big deal that it was brought out to be.
Can I
And
read? Can I end
I'm
this?
sorry that Keanu had to spend a bunch of movies with that just hanging over him and
Right.
people thinking like, oh, he's Ted and he sucks in this movie. He's an idiot. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry
Yeah.
that he had to deal with that for like years and years, it seems.
We just realized, like, okay, he's not good at doing this particular thing. Let's have him stop doing it.
Yeah.
But I want to
Plenty of other great actors are shitty at doing accents.
Plenty
Yeah.
of great actors phone it in and do bullshit movies later in life too. Like
I want to close this out.
So mad right now.
Yeah, I want to close it out by reading a quote from Francis Ford Coppola from an interview that he did just 4 years ago.
I like wine. Just hanging out in his vineyard. He's honestly a little bit like a vampire. He went into seclusion and lives and drinks red juice.
Yes. So he's asked, the question is, Keanu Reeves was very criticized for his performance. Do you feel responsible for that? And Coppola says, we knew that it was tough for him to affect an English accent. He tried so hard. That was the problem, actually. He wanted to do it perfectly, and in trying to do it perfectly, it came off as stilted. I tried to get him to just relax with it and not do it so fastidiously, so maybe I wasn't as critical of him, but that's because I like him personally so much. To this day, he's a prince in my eyes. And then the interviewer mentions, I think he's spoken about being burnt out from so much work when he arrived on set, which Keanu has talked about. And Coppola says, perhaps. And I know the critics gave him trouble about the accent, but of all the young people I've met in the film industry, he's so endearing and sincere, and a good person and a generous person, and I'm glad I came to know that. He's the nicest person you'll ever want to meet. Case closed.
That's
Coppola
one of the
on Keanu.
well, that's one of the gray eminences of cinema at this point, weighing in.
Yeah,
That is a man
yeah.
who will he will not
That is-
spare you the sword if he dislikes you.
That is the creator of The Godfathers Part 1 and 2. That is the creator of The Conversation, Apocalypse Now,
Jack.
One from the Heart,
Jack.
Peggy
Tucker,
Sue
a man
Got
in his
Married.
dream. Rumblefish.
Yeah, you got to it. The one with Jeff Bridges where he makes automobiles.
I said that already. That's Tucker the man in his dream. Tetro.
Tetro, bitch.
Was it Youth?
Youth Without You.
Yeah,
Youth
Without
cocktail.
Okay, guys, we got to end this. We got to. Does anyone have a thing they want to say?
Follow me on Vero.
Shut up, Jake. We're not there yet. Thank you to Brian, host of our theme song. Thank you to Emma Logson
kissing.
for our artwork. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Keanu Podcast. Discuss this episode, and we're very sorry about this episode.
No.
On our subreddit r/thrillums. Please leave us a nice review.
Not sorry.
And don't complain about everything we did in this episode.
We love you guys.
Jake, you want to plug anything?
Follow me on Vero at TheRealJT.
And be excellent to each
And
other.
have a spooky Halloween.
Jake, have a spooky Halloween.
Okay, I'll try.